what may be the last sitting week ahead of an election early next year. The Albanese government is trying to deal with as much legislation as possible before Parliament rises on Thursday. A surge in asbestos-related incidents has sparked calls for more awareness. Despite being banned 2 decades ago, many older buildings still contain the harmful material. Asbestos and Dust Diseases Research Institute's Anthony Linton says the importance of taking action has been highlighted by recent events.
When contamination is discovered, as happened in Rozelle this year and in the universities and in many of our parklands, really take swift and immediate action to remove that.
November is the biggest month for scams involving debit and credit cards. Data shows scams linked to a debit or credit card are 34% higher than the normal monthly average in November. The NAB says most card-related scams happen on Thursdays between 4 and 6 p.m. Shoppers looking to grab a bargain in the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales are being urged to remain on alert for scams. A new study shows Australia spends more than $1.2 billion a year treating high blood pressure. Kiara Parker reports.
A study published in the Medical Journal of Australia shows patients are paying 40% from own pockets, while taxpayers cover 60%. Over half of the money spent goes to pharmacies for dispensing and handling drugs, while GP appointments contribute another $300 million to the cost of dealing with high blood pressure. High blood pressure is still the leading risk factor for death in Australia, as it is a leading cause of heart attacks and stroke. Around 34% of Australian adults are estimated to have high blood pressure, but only half of these people are aware they have it.
A fourth body has been found in the United Kingdom as Storm Bert continues to wreak havoc. Bridges and cars have been washed away as snow, rain and strong winds disrupt travel. More than 100 flood warnings are in place across the country. And Live Golf Adelaide has been named the world's best golf event for the second year in a row at the World Golf Awards. The 11th annual World Golf Awards were held in Portugal over the weekend. Now turning to 5AA Sports.
Get a free fuel card with a new Triton, Pajero, Outlander or Eclipse from Agostino Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Mawson Lakes.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Jess. Australia is in all sorts of strife in the first test against India. Virat Kohli made a stunning return to form with an unbeaten century, helping India declare with a 533-run lead in Perth. Australia limping to 3 for 12 at stumps with still 2 days to play. Meantime, South Australia has work to do in its Shield clash against WA at Adelaide Oval. SA reached 4 for 139 at stumps, still trailing the Warriors by 234 runs after they were dismissed for 373. Well, Max Verstappen has been crowned the 2024 Formula One World Champion. It's the 4th consecutive World Championship for Verstappen, with a solid 5th place for Red Bull at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. The Dutch-Belgian driver says it was a long journey to get here.
Yeah, it's been, a long season, and of course we started off amazing. It was almost like cruising, but then we had a tough run. But as a team, we kept it together. We kept working on improvements.
To golf, and youngster Elvis Smiley has taken out the Australian PGA Championship at Royal Queensland after holding off Cam Smith and Mark Leishman to take out the biggest tournament of his career by 2 shots. And there were 2 games in the EPL overnight. Liverpool now holding a whopping 8-point lead at the top of the table after they came from behind to beat Southampton 3-2, while Manchester United and Ipswich played out a 1-1 draw. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Thanks, Tom. Now the 5AA forecast.
Stay cool. Service your aircon at Automasters. And keep cool with Cool Now, Pay Later options.
Partly cloudy and 28 today, 32 tomorrow with a shower or 2, 24 for Wednesday and 23 for Thursday. Right now it's 19 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
The Advertiser is giving you the chance to win a share of $50,000 in IGA gift cards to get your groceries on us this Christmas. Buy the paper, find the daily code word today and enter online. Conditions apply. SAT 24/1488.
Harvey Norman Black Friday sale. Shop up to a massive 35% off Windows 11 laptops, plus up to 30% off desktops and all-in-ones. Shop hot mobile offers, like the Motorola Edge 50 Neo, now $348. That's half price. Shop big deals on Sony. Get bonus $50 gift card on Sony noise-cancelling headphones, now $348, save $90. And save $150 on PlayStation 5 Slim, now $648. Harvey Norman Black Friday sale.
If the bank's declined your business loan, no worries. Universal Finance make business loans easy. No financials required. Unsecured business loans and business overdrafts. Universal Finance can help your business now. For lightning fast settlement, sometimes in just a matter of hours. See Universal Finance in Kent Town today. Or search Universal Finance right now. This is general advice only, and you should consider the terms and conditions before determining whether this advice is suitable for your situation.
It's fair to say we've all been impacted by soaring energy costs, so it's important to look for ways to reduce what we pay, and the answer isn't always turning the lights or heater off.
One solution, and it's a good one, is to get in touch with the great people at NRG Solar like we did at our place. Now, in our case, NRG recommended battery storage, and what it means is that in the evening you draw on the energy stored in the battery that your solar panels provide during the day.
NRG have come to the rescue of thousands of SA families, educating people on the best and most effective way to reduce energy bills. And it's why so many people trust NRG Solar.
So if you're serious about saving money long term and looking into solar, do the right thing, get in.
Adelaide wakes up with FIVEAA, David Penberthy and Will Goodings, Tom Wren for sport, Jade Robran on the scene as it happens, Graham Goodings and Jess Adamson with the news that matters to Adelaide. Breakfast with David and Will, bringing together the names you trust with everything you need to know to start your day. Always live, always local and only on FIVEAA. Always Adelaide.
Away in the Tucson Hybrid by Hyundai from just $46,990 drive away. T's and C's apply.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, FIVEAA Breakfast.
6:08, good morning to you. Welcome to Monday on FIVEAA Breakfast. It is a beautiful morning outside at the moment. It's not muggy, it's not hot, it's not cold or wet. It is just perfect. 18.7 degrees, as you've just heard in FIVEAA News. Big morning ahead. We are off to Albania this morning. Emily Ollie, who you might have read in the Tiser over the last few years, is in Albania at the moment. There is some emerging theories on the disappearance of Adelaide man Cameron Twiss. She's been in the area where the hike was meant to finish, so it can give us a little bit of a local sense of how that story is progressing there. Any local intel as well. Tim Lester for 7 News in the United States before 7 o'clock. Stacey Lee will be on the program. We'll put someone in the hot seat and talk state politics with Stacey. And the Premier of South Australia, Peter Malinowski, is going to join us after 8:30, fresh from Baku. Has he moved us a step closer to securing the next COP summit here in South Australia? David Penberthy, good morning to you.
Good morning, listeners. Good morning, Will. It seems to be a case of haves and have-nots when it comes to who got any rain over the weekend. It sounded like all hell was going to break loose. The Weather Bureau got us all excited. It was a hard weather pattern to predict, but at one point they were saying up to 20 mil in the metropolitan area on
5
Saturday.
to 20, I think, was the last forecast on Friday night.
I think they brought it down a little bit late Friday. But you didn't. You were saying, Will, here in town, you didn't get a drop.
Well, we got a little bit, but geez, well, it wasn't notable. And it
half
felt
an hour,
to me
40 minutes down the road from town in Aldinga, we got probably. We haven't got a rain gauge, so I'm guessing, but it felt like we got about probably 5 mil Saturday. Like it rained steadily for on and off for about 5 hours.
That's right at the bottom end of the original predicted range. That said, I did have a look at the radar over the weekend, and it looked like if you're in Clare or in some of the northern parts of South Australia, you got a decent drenching. Interested to know, did anyone get double digits rain gauge-wise over the weekend? Where were you if you did? Let us know.
If you played for the Australian cricket team and you got double digits, we'd like to hear from you too.
That would be even more notable. God, remember that whole... Look, you know how many messages I sent on the first day of the test going, oh, great, another boring summer of cricket. Little did I know why it was going to be a boring summer of cricket.
Oh, I don't think it's boring. I think it's fascinating. I reckon... I mean, if it was the other way around, we'd be sitting here going, wow, this is one of the all-time great Australian wins we're looking at. But
well, I thought it was... When India were bowled out for... Well, looked like they were going to be bowled out for about 150 odd. And they've just lost to New Zealand in India. And I thought this could be a whole test summer of 3-day tests. This will be boring as all hell. Oh my goodness.
I think we've all made the fatal mistake of forgetting how amazingly good India are at playing cricket.
Well, so did they, though.
Well, they've remembered at totally the wrong time for Australia. How good a bowler is Bumrah?
Unbelievable. Just superb.
You couldn't. I couldn't get through 3 balls from that guy. That ball that got McSweeney last night, no one in the history of cricket would have stopped that from hitting him square on the pads.
How about that whole debate we had about who was going to open for the Australian team for the last 3 months? That went well, didn't it?
Yeah.
There's a lot of wasted energy.
So we'll get into it all with Tom a bit later, but what we really need today and then for the first 2 sessions tomorrow is like a 430-run Travis Head, Alex Carey partnership.
I thought you were going to say a rain event.
Or
That's
a rain
what we
event.
need. And
Rain.
I got bad news for you.
Heaps and heaps of rain.
10%, 0% for Perth forecast. In fact, there's no rain forecast for Perth until next weekend. So there's no salvation coming weather-wise.
Mick's been cheeky on the Duttons text line already. Says, morning, lads. I don't want to trigger anyone in the studio, but did somebody say Davey Warner? Is he the saviour? Do we get him back? I got to say, it's like the people who are CEOs of companies and deliberately don't have a succession plan because they want the place to look like it's falling apart when they leave. He's in that category, for my mind. Like coming out going, well, I'll be happy to come back. Maybe part of the problem is that we left him in the side for so long that we didn't actually blood any new talent.
Well, I also don't think there's a great wealth of talent in Australian cricket at the moment.
Well, there are other things. They all seem to be getting not that good at the same time. Watching poor old Marcus Labuschagne do anything at the moment. Absolute struggle town. I'm standing there for 2 hours making 2 runs.
We'll get Redding's analysis very shortly. Lots of good Duttons texts coming through. With regard to the rain, 0480 08 95. A few places got a decent downpour. How about Pat? Peterborough got 40 mils.
Wow.
40 mils at Peterborough. Loxton got 15, says Michael. Roger says 13.5 mils at Emu Downs, 9Ks from Robertstown.
Dave from Alberton says, as it turned out, I could have opened for Australia in the first test. And Sue from Henley says, maybe Pat Cummins should have given Coldplay a miss and sent some line and length deliveries down to the local nets. Excellent point.
Ben Jordan's put the rain in some historical context, as he is known to do, our resident stats man. He says, with the lack of rain over the weekend, Adelaide currently 327 mils for the year. The average to November 25 is 500 mils generally. This is the 7th driest year we've had since 1839.
Wow.
7th driest year since 1839.
When we were 3 years old.
3 years old. They must just not have had the weather equipment set up in 1836.
Didn't have a Stevenson screen.
Took a few years to order one in off Temu.
The bomb app was really unreliable back then.
Yeah, that's just
about as reliable as it was last Friday.
14 after 6. News headlines are coming up next.
Black Friday happens at Binge. Don't have Binge? Get Binge Basic for just $4.99 a month for 12 months. At that price, it'd be rude not to. Visit binge.com.au/Black Friday to redeem. Offer ends December 2.
Adelaide's local, trusted and truly connected talkback radio station. 5AA. Always Adelaide.
Whoa, slow down a sec. You got to check RAA Rewards before you check out. There are deals for members to redeem on RAA Rewards all the time.
Totally, Trev. And for this month only, RAA members save 20% on almost everything at Repco. It's better to be a member with RAA Rewards. T's and C's and exclusions apply. Discount applies to full retail price. Must be an existing RAA member with a valid membership shown at time of purchase to redeem offer. See RAA website for full details.
This is the sound of Tom turning last night's dinner into a free lunch. And this is the sound of Alice finally cooking the right amount of pasta. Australia, together we can turn food waste around. Start unwasting at thegreatunwaste.com.au.
Want to make a difference for a worthwhile cause?
We've got the opportunity for you. CMAX is trialling a new potential treatment to help those with autoimmune conditions. If you're aged 18 to 55 and generally healthy, you might be eligible to participate. Enjoy a comfortable 4-night stay at CMAX, attend one follow-up visit and get paid for your time. It's a rewarding experience and you'll be making a real impact. Interested? Visit cmax.com.au today.
It's Cheap as Chips Black Friday sale.
Cheap as chips.
And holy chip, these deals are cheap. Get 30% off Christmas solar lights. Pent Metal Shed, save $100, now $249. Stick vacuums and carpet cleaners, a crazy $99. 100 litre eco recycled tub, just $19. And get 50% off 3-door pantries, now $149.50. Grab our Black Friday catalogue for more amazing Black Friday weekend deals this Friday to Monday. Live cheaper with Cheap as Chips, in store or online.
Hey, hun.
Yes, dear?
Why is the mower by the back door? And the blower vac? And the edge trimmer?
Well, the weather is great and I want the lawn and garden looking like a brochure.
But they could all use a service before I can do that.
And you have just one job. Load them in the SUV and get them serviced at Stanford Mowers.
And then?
Feed up, hun. The backyard is all mine this weekend, baby.
Stanford Mowers for servicing. 590 Main North Road, Jeps Cross. stanfordmowers.com.au.
Hi, Bronte Manuel from Toop and Toop. Now more than ever, you need an agent who's not just out for a quick sale. You need someone who can stand their ground to ensure you're maximising your home's potential. There's a good reason Toop and Toop is defying market trends and continuing to deliver premium outcomes for its clients. With a history spanning almost 40 years and a team of unrivaled experience, Toop and Toop knows what it takes to maximise your results in any selling conditions. Visit toop.com.au to find out more.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head to 5AA on Facebook or YouTube. Drive away in the Tucson Hybrid by Hyundai from just $46,990 drive away. T's and C's apply.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings. 5AA Breakfast.
18 after 6, there were some places in SA that got massive downpours. Jeff says Yunta on the way to Broken Hill, 50 mils.
Yunta.
And Paringa.
You're thinking of the Argentinian government, Yunta.
That's another word for coup, isn't it?
No, junta in Spanish. It's a military government.
A military government.
So, yeah, like Galtieri led the Argentinian junta.
Yes. Jock in Paringa says, sorry, it was Jock. I didn't see your name there, Jock. You put it at the front. 53 mils at Paringa. Let's get into the news headlines on this Monday morning. Police were called to a serious crash at Kapunda, north of Adelaide last night. Just after 8 p.m, a car travelling north left the Tearley Highway and rolled down a hill. The highway was closed in both directions between Greenock Road and East Terrace. Federal police are offering assistance to officers in Laos investigating suspected mass methanol poisoning. 2 Australians have died after consuming alcohol they believe to have contained it is believed to have contained the toxic substance. There are 4 others that are also dead. The families of both women are pleading with the government to ensure the incident doesn't happen again.
It's such a sad, sad story, isn't it?
Oh,
the news popped up about those 2 girls, and it just, you know, as parents, you think you want your kids to go and have these adventures. Like for a long time, it was, you know, you'd go to Bali, or a lot of kids would, you know, save up and maybe try to spend a year backpacking around Europe on the cheap, but you go and stay in these places that are dirt cheap. And there are, particularly in Southeast Asia, there are hazards that come with it. Terrible.
A new investigation's been launched into the John Setka-led CFMEU takeover in South Australia. This is fascinating. We will talk more about it after 7 o'clock. The construction union, which was subsequently put under control of Administrator, it will probe the spending of one of its secretaries. It'll probe any influence of the way any public officials that were lent on, a whole range of behaviours that we're going to talk about after 7 o'clock today.
I reckon too, I think the Premier was a little bit too laid back by half early on about the possible repercussions of the Victorian takeover of the SA CFMEU. He's on the record as saying that, as far as he's concerned, there's no evidence of any criminality in the SA CFMEU. Okay. Let's just see what this inquiry shakes out. But beyond that, like the way they're using that Inco link as their Trojan horse to take over South Australian workers' entitlements, the way we're seeing some of the interstate Victorian-owned and operated crane companies coming in here and getting preferential treatment, there's a whole bunch of reputable locally based smaller businesses in the construction sector in South Australia. They've got a long and proud history of working collaboratively with their workers, be they unionised or not. And currently these people are, in some instances, getting sidelined. And this is exactly what the NBA has been warning the government about for the better part of 2 years. And it's looking potentially quite embarrassing for the Malinowskis government.
And you look at the business insolvencies in the construction sector, you look at the cost of building stuff in South Australia and what that's done. What's it going to mean for South Road? What does it mean for things like the Women's and Children's Hospital? Like they're not victimless.
Yeah,
like, they're broader impacts when there's less competition in the construction sector.
You know, the other thing too, I've heard a couple of stories. We've spoken before about, things like going to a war zone, not my idea of journalism. I've heard a couple of stories about some things that involve personalities I wouldn't want to discuss on air or in print.
Right. These things may all be covered in the inquiry.
Yeah.
Yeah. November, it turns out, is the biggest month for scams involving debit and credit cards. November is number one, 34% higher in November than the monthly average. The NAB says most cards-related scams happen on Thursday between 4 and 6 p.m. Don't know what the significance of this. Payday? Maybe? Thursdays?
Maybe.
Shoppers looking to grab a bargain in the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales are being urged to remain on alert for scams. And after 7, we're just going to bring you up to speed with what the Albanese government's been doing over the weekend. The short version is this. The misinformation bill is dead. The anti-gambling reforms are on hold. But the Barley 9 are coming home. Swings and roundabouts. You might have some thoughts on all that. 0448081395. You can call us on 822300.
I'm going to ask the question in the most neutral and unloaded way possible. Who is happy that the Albanese government is using its authority to bring back members of the Barley 9 heroin smuggling cartel?
Let us know.
Just let us know.
Let us know.
Is anyone happy?
It was good how you did that then. Neutral David. Neutral Milk David. 28 are the expected top today. Outside at the moment, it is...
Nice oblique one for the indie rock fans out there, really.
18.6 degrees. Tomorrow, it'll get back up to 32 and potentially 6 mils of rain. Then it will drop down Wednesday. So the first time we'll get actually any real reprieve will be Wednesday, 24 degrees, up to 4 mils of rain. Thursday, 23 and cloudy. Friday, 23 and cloudy, 24 on Saturday, and then back up to 27 on Sunday. So once we get beyond Tuesday, a bit more of a mild week that we'll be able to enjoy.
Good week for getting the house ready for Christmas, I think.
Yes. Yeah, you don't want to have to leave all your Christmas-related chores to a 35-plus degree sort of week.
And for the garden as well, if you're hosting and you want it to look nice, this is the week to trim your edges.
I guess now for our sins, we're going to talk about the cricket. Get a free fuel card with new Triton Pajero Outlander or Eclipse from Agostino Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Mawson Lakes. Rennie, good morning to you.
Morning, Will. Morning, David. What an absolute horror show.
I don't think your microphone's there is working, Rennie.
What about this one?
Here we go.
Yeah, there we go. That one's better.
On you, Tommy.
Yeah, what a horror show. What an absolute disaster for Australia in the cricket. Skittled for 104 in the first innings, 3 for 12 now in the second, and serious questions have to be raised. What was their scheduling like, leading into this series? Sheffield Shield matches were barely played by a lot of the senior players. What's going on with some of the senior players? Marnus Labuschagne, Steve Smith chiefly among them. Do some tough decisions have to be made, or do you stick fat and just tip your hat and say, well played, India? So huge issues at the moment. Virat Kohli a century. The problem is now you've got all their top players, senior players, in form, full of confidence, and on the verge of a crushing win.
Well, winding back to day one, it looked like we had them on toast. That opening session by Stark in particular, just superb. But then the batting, and I think you mentioned Labuschagne, Tom, they've got to get rid of this idea that the bloke's an all-rounder too, don't they? It's bad enough watching him bat, because he's a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
But watching him bowl, he's just chucking pies.
Yeah, and they've spent a lot of petrol tickets now. Admittedly, they do get a big break between test matches, but the fast bowlers have had to toil away for 2 days. And I think that's part of the reason why Labuschagne was given the ball. But you're right. Why have you got Mitch Marsh then? I mean, that's why he's in the side. I would have thought that's your fourth quick. That's why he's there to bowl, to roll the arm over.
Importantly, how awesome are India? Like when this side clicks, like Bumrah, Kohli, that kid
Jaiswal, who's going to be the next big
he's
thing?
Phenomenal.
And they save their best for Australia. They stand up when it counts. Kohli 700s now in Australia. I mean, it has to be.
Hasn't been a bye run in 4 years?
That's right. And then he comes out here and he destroys Australia.
Kohli's a vastly better captain than Cummins too.
Yeah, I think
Kohli just looks like he cares,
but he's not actually captain. It's Bumrah who's doing it at the moment.
Bumrah.
Yeah, but he's probably their spiritual leader though, isn't he? In so many ways, on and off the pitch, he's massive.
I was watching him do all the field settings. I just assumed he was the captain.
Yeah. Well, Bumrah's often having to do, worrying about bowling and sending him down at 140.
Guy.
He and I felt sorry for Nathan McSweeney. There wasn't much he could do with that ball late in the day, But that's Test cricket. That's where it is. You've got to survive those 35-minute spells at the end of a day.
I tell you what, doesn't it show that being down the road playing, Queensland in a Shield game is a completely different proposition to having Bumrah screaming in at you with that incredible action.
Well, that goes to this question of depth, Rennie, and there's no cavalry coming. We had 3 months of conversation about who was going to overtake, come in as the opener. Now, Nathan McSweeney won it, but it hit it off the back of some runs for SA, but then he went to Australia A, made nothing. But no one else did either. And so he sort of got positioned by default. Now, there's no one banging down the door for any of those top 6 positions,
Well, Cam Bancroft probably was the best player in Australian cricket for 2 or 3 years, comfortably. He made a golden duck in the match against South Australia. He literally cannot buy a run. He cannot make a run to save himself. So you can't pick him. The bolter might be someone like Henry Hunt for South Australia, who's on 70 overnight, but he hasn't done it consistently enough. You're right. There's no one banging that door down. So, it's all well and good for me to come out and say Labuschagne and Smith, they're under pressure, but who's coming in?
Yeah, from who?
Where you're going to go to Pete Hanscom, Marcus Harris? I don't think so. So this is, look, I think they will be very conservative heading into the second test. They'll say, let's give them another game, see how it goes in Adelaide. 5-match series, don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but gee, it's looking grim.
Well, it makes the Adelaide Test even more interesting, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, big time. So
I reckon there was an argument last night that, they're coming in with like 7 overs left, that they should have just said, let's just go out and try to bazball this. Well, it's not going to make any difference.
Couldn't have gone much worse.
Well, it wouldn't have.
Well, they need,
3 for 9.
522 runs to win from here. It's amazing. Look,
India should have declared after their first innings.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have made 50.
The Aussie cricketers are obviously one of our losers from the weekend. Crows and Port women, unfortunately, they go down. The Port fairly convincingly. Crows were leading at half-time, but they were beaten, so they're the losers. Manchester City, 5 losses in a row, all competitions, unheard of. Ange Postecoglou, he's one of the big winners. That was outstanding.
Unbelievable.
Aussie men lost in the tennis in the Davis Cup, which was disappointing. Winners, Ange Postecoglou, you're right, Will. Outstanding result. Needed that. They've been a bit up and down in the Premier League this season, but that was a good result. Adelaide United, they had a great win. They're 3-1 to start the season. Their 1 was a draw.
Jeez, they could have put 6 past them too if the finishing was a bit better. They looked superb.
They looked great, didn't they?
Yeah,
and look, Brisbane are bad. They haven't got a point yet.
Sure.
But
it's away.
Great result.
Yep.
Elvis Smiley, I think I said to you a few weeks ago, keep an eye on this kid. He's won the Australian PGA Championship, which is the biggest tournament we have in Australia. He held off Cam Smith and Mark Leishman. He's the son of Liz Smiley, who was the former top 20 tennis player, won 4 Grand Slams at doubles level.
More famous as the extra woman.
The great taste that really lasts.
We might all become big golf fans at the end of this summer of cricket, Rennie.
Yes.
Maybe we'll do that instead. That sounds way more fun.
It could be. Max Verstappen, world champion, 4th time in a row. Well done to him. Italy, they won the Davis Cup. Well done to them. And Jaiswal, who we mentioned, the 100. And are you going to be lining up to watch Andy Murray coaching Novak Djokovic at the Australian Open, Pembo?
Got something on that day, I reckon.
What's he going to teach Novak?
Well, that's it.
Principles of modern science.
Yeah. It might be just a sounding board, perhaps. He can't teach him anything, can he?
I wouldn't have thought he's won more than anyone in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
That is pretty weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. It's almost like a mentor or something.
Got Donald Bredman coming over, going to give him a few tips.
Good on you, Reddy.
Thanks, boys.
This is 5AA News. Always Adelaide.
Partly cloudy and 28 today. With the 6:30 news, I'm Jess Adamson.
Chipped windscreen? RAA approved repairer Complete Windscreens repairs it from just $99. Find the big red koala.
A woman will face court today charged over a high-speed chase through the northern suburbs in a stolen car. Police spotted the black Toyota Corolla with its lights off on Hamlin Road at Elizabeth Downs just before 11:30 on Saturday night. Patrols followed it, spiking the tyres on Main North Road, but the driver allegedly continued at high speed, running a red light on Main North Road. The 36-year-old woman, who was driving while disqualified, will face the Elizabeth Magistrates Court later this morning. The grieving father of one of two Australians who died of suspected methanol poisoning in Laos is calling for answers. 19-year-old best friends Bianca Jones and Holly Bowles died in separate Thai hospitals after their drinks were tainted with the toxic chemical while on holiday. Mark Jones says it's vital a thorough investigation is carried out.
I'd like to take this opportunity to urge the Lao government to investigate this to the fullest extent to make sure this incident doesn't happen again. Young men and women should be able to travel, create their own life experiences and be safe.
MPs have returned to Canberra for what may be the final sitting week before a federal election is called. The Albanese government is trying to get a raft of key legislation passed by Thursday, including a social media ban for under-16s. But Labor is unlikely to have any luck when it comes to housing, with its Help to Buy scheme stuck in the Senate. More than 1,300 Australian businesses went bust in October, marking the highest number of insolvencies in a single month on record. Figures from ASIC show construction and hospitality were among the sectors hardest hit due to high material costs and skills shortages. Corporate Australia is being urged to donate old phones to help victims of domestic violence. In the past 5 years, not-for-profit group DV Safe Phone has collected and redistributed more than 10,000 phones to people escaping controlling or violent situations. Founder Ashton Wood says they test them, fix them and provide SIM cards where possible.
We're encouraging everyone to please consider collecting their phones from their office, because quite often the company phones are in much better condition than people's phones at home that have been through mum, dad, the kids and the bath. We do find that corporate phones are much better quality, and we would love them to consider partnering with us to donate their phones.
Individuals can also donate their old phones. A drop-off point can be found on the website dvsafephone.org. At least 100 flood warnings have been issued as a deadly storm makes its way across the UK. Edward Godfrey is there.
Storm Bert is causing chaos across the UK, and sadly it's been deadly too, with at least 5 people dying. Areas across Wales have been hit the hardest. There have been landslides in the north, towns in the south inundated, roads and cars submerged, emergency crews kept busy rescuing people and animals too. More than 100 flooding alerts have been issued. 80% of the monthly rainfall has fallen this weekend. The storm is lashing England too, wreaking havoc with flights. Many have been cancelled or delayed from Heathrow. Storm Bert isn't done yet. It's expected to hang around until Tuesday, local time.
Now turning to 5AA Sport.
Get a free fuel card with a new Triton, Pajero, Outlander or Eclipse from Agostino Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Mawson Lakes.
Good morning, Tom Wren.
And a very good morning to you as well, Jess. We're going to start with some cricket, and Australia's in desperate trouble after limping to 3 for 12 at stumps on day 3. Still trailing India by a mammoth 522 runs with 2 days to play. Yashavi Jaiswal and Virat Kohli each made hundreds for the tourists before Jasprit Bumrah took 2 late wickets to leave the hosts in all sorts. Usman Khawaja and Steve Smith will return to the crease a little later on day 4. Meantime, Henry Hunt and Harry Nilsson will be hoping to pile on the runs on day 3 of the Shield clash against WA. SA to resume at 4 for 139, still trailing the Warriors' first innings by 234 runs. To golf now, Elvis Smiley has won his first Australian PGA Championship after shooting a final round of 4 under par. The 22-year-old says it was a special moment to beat Cameron Smith by 2 shots.
Playing with Cam and Leash, they're guys I've looked up to since I was a kid, and just being in their presence and having a chance to compete against them for a title, I've learnt so much, and I'm so grateful and I'm so honoured right now.
To soccer, Mary Fowler's taking a break from football to refresh from physical and mental fatigue, withdrawing from the Matildas' upcoming matches against Brazil and Chinese Taipei. Meantime, Liverpool is now 8 points clear at the top of the table following a dramatic 3-2 away win against Southampton. The Reds trailed 2-1 early in the second half, but 2 goals from Mo Salah got them all 3 points, the winner coming via a penalty.
Salah against McCarthy, 3-2. Liverpool have now turned it around. They lead by the odd goal in 5, and in the bigger picture, they lead the table by 8 points.
Huge result, that audio, thanks to Optus. And there was one other game overnight, Ipswich and Manchester United playing out a 1-1 draw. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Thanks, Tom. Now the 5AA forecast.
Stay cool. Service your aircon at Automasters. And keep cool with Cool Now, Pay Later options.
Partly cloudy and 28 today, 32 with a shower or two tomorrow, 24 for Wednesday and 23 for Thursday and Friday. Right now it's 19 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Drive away in the Tucson Hybrid by Hyundai from just $46,990 drive away. T's and C's apply.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings. 5AA Breakfast.
23 minutes to 7. We're crossing to Albania in just a moment. We're going to catch up with Thai sojourner Emily Ollie, who's there. Her path through the country's been really fascinating. In fact, she's been in Skoda, where Cameron Twist, the Adelaide man who disappeared, suspected whilst hiking in the area. She's been there, but also to the finish of the hike. So can give us some sort of local knowledge as to the area, the conditions, what it's like there, what kind of news the story's making in that part of the world. We'll get to Emily in just a moment. Let's do some Dutton's text first, though, because, David, you did your best to ask in the most neutral tone
100%
about the Bali Nine and the decision to return them to Australia.
Straight as a die.
And
wasn't a push polling question. It was just a, what do you think?
The people have spoken, though.
They have, and there is one message supporting what the Albanese government has done. It's from Julie. Thank you, Julie. It says, "Hi, Will and Dave. The Bali Nine have done their time and should be allowed to come home. They were young people who made a terrible decision and they'll never get their youth back." So there's that one from Julie. And then there are so far about 15 along these lines. "Tell Jelly Spine Elbow to help get the Israeli hostages home instead. I'm not paying for druggies to come back." That's from Steve. Another one here from Jane with a Y. "My God, again, Albo's spending his time on useless outcomes for Australia. What the hell is he thinking that bringing back the remains of the Bali Nine is a good thing to do?" Simon says, "The Voice, anti-free speech legislation, getting drug smugglers back to Australia when we're already losing the war on drugs. Luckily, there aren't more important things to concentrate on, like a cost of living crisis." Rick in Aldinga Beach says, "I'd like to know, what did it cost us for that deal to happen?" Sue in Henley says, "Me, not happy at all." Peter from Alston says, "Anthony Albanese is a total disgrace, bring on the federal election," and on and on and on and on and on and on they go.
We will talk more about that story after 7 o'clock, so if you would like to text in or call in to be part of the conversations, you can do so via the Dutton's text line. Dutton's car dealerships in the Adelaide Hills and Murray Bridge. They're easy to do business with, or by calling 8223 0000.
What I will say, my reaction when I heard that story, I was talking to a friend over the weekend and they were talking about the federal politics, and someone said, "He just needs a bit of a circuit breaker." And then the story broke, and I said, maybe this is it. That's going to go. I said, I tell you what, sometimes in our job, I said, how easy is work going to be Monday? We'll come in, we'll spend 5 minutes talking about how bad the cricket team is, then at 7 minutes past 6 we'll say, "So everyone, what do you think of Albo's plan to bring back the Bali Nine?"
Well, the Dutton's text line's going berserk at the moment. There's not a lot of good news on the legislative front either. We'll get to that after 7 o'clock. But first, let's head to Albania, because we've been following the story of the disappearance of Cameron Twist closely in that country. Set out for a hike and didn't return. Emily Ollie is in the country. She works for the Advertiser here in Adelaide. You will have doubtless read her on many occasions and has been kind enough to give us some of her time. Emily, good morning to you.
Morning, guys. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, Emily, thank you for coming on over there covering this really quite disturbing story. Now, until I read your piece this morning, I didn't even know that there were bears in Albania. This is a pretty scary theory that people there are putting around them.
Yeah, so it's been a sort of interesting development. It's a bit of a weird one because there's actually only about 200 bears in the country. but they are known to be in the area where Cameron went missing. There actually hasn't been a bear attack on that trail before, but they have been. I've been sent some photos this morning of bear tracks around the trail. They're certainly known to be in the area. One of the theories is that potentially if he wasn't attacked, if he sort of slipped and fell or had some sort of misadventure, then, the bear could have, it's awful terms, but the bear could have, taken his body or something like that. I think the theory's mostly just emerged because the kind of feeling from locals here is that it's one of the more bizarre cases that they've seen in the mountains up there.
And it's not like a remote area, really, is it? Like, a lot of people go walking there, don't they?
Yeah, so it's actually considered Albania's busiest hiking track. So Cameron set off, it's a town called Valbona, which, so I was staying in a town called Shkoda, which is considered to be kind of the gateway to the Albanian Alps. So it's where most of the tourists stay before heading up into the mountains. So to get to Valbona, the trip that Cameron would have taken is to take sort of a 2-hour bus to a lake, then you take a 2-hour ferry, and then you take an hour bus up to Valbona. It's quite a busy little town in the peak hiking season. Now peak hiking season has finished, so a lot of the trails are closed just because the snow's starting to close in. But during the peak times, absolutely bustling, to the point where often the trails are packed with, we're talking sort of hundreds, if not thousands, of people hiking them per day. So he set off from Valbona to a little town called Seth, which is on the other side. It's about 17 kilometres between the two towns. And yeah, as I said, it is considered to be one of the busiest trails and also one of the sort of easiest to follow trails in the area.
Emily, is this story big news in Albania?
Well, it's been a weird one. So I went up to the town of Seth where Cameron was supposed to finish. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to Valbona just because of the driving conditions on the roads, just because the snow has started to set in. But everyone in the towns knew of it. There's missing persons posters for him up in Seth. There were also some posters up in Valbona. They do seem to know about it. But also in Shkoda, a lot of the people there sort of only found out about it. A couple of the hostels that I went to only heard about it when I told them. So there hasn't been a lot of coverage. And it's been quite interesting since we've started following it. I've actually been contacted by quite a few journalists in Albania who actually hadn't heard of the case. And the first they'd heard of it is when we started reporting it here in Adelaide.
One thing I find really weird with the story, Emily, is Mr. Twist, he was last seen on October 13, and then it wasn't until November 9, which was 6 days after the search was called off, that he was reported as a missing person. Why was there such a big gap between him being reported?
Yeah, so I actually sat down this afternoon since we published our last story with one of the experienced sort of tour guides in the area. And so he said that the turnaround time was actually quite quick. So the hostel reported him missing. He was due back on the 13th and didn't make it back. So he was actually reported... they kind of flagged that he hadn't returned within 24 hours of him setting off on that hike. So the search efforts actually began within that 24 hours. But I think what's happened there is that they kind of searched for him for 2 weeks. I think that there was probably some hope that he might turn up somewhere before they sort of formally considered it a missing persons case. So that sort of explains that delay. And obviously the missing persons case is different to the search. The search is kind of a hiker's gone missing, we're hoping to find him. The missing persons case now means it's obviously in the hands of the Albanian State Police.
Yeah, well, it's a real mystery. And one final thing, Emily, have you managed to talk to his family here in Adelaide, or are they just sort of flying under the radar and just hoping for the best possible outcome with all this?
Yeah, I've had some brief contact with some members of his family. I mean, for them, as you can imagine, it would be such a sort of overwhelming situation, just so awful. So I think, they're pretty hesitant at the moment to sort of speak too publicly on what's happened. But I know that his brother had come to Albania when those first initial search efforts kicked off, and he helped with some of those foot searches in the area. But I think for now they're sort of just trying to lay low and hoping for the best news.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I think we all are. Well, great chatting to you, and we'll catch up when you're back. Thank you.
15 minutes to 7, police and weather coming up in just a moment. First, we'll check traffic for the first time this morning. Black Friday sales are now on at Barbecue Adelaide, Weber Stores, Jeps Cross and Mile End. Minimum 10% off store-wide.
Thanks, Will, and morning, David. Roads are looking pretty good for the run-in today. We're accident breakdown free, which is a good start. We have a level crossing fault at Alberton. Bit out of the way, though. Fussell Place at the railway line, which is good news. Teacher Gully has works, North East Road near Perseverance Road, and getting a little busy already at Camden Park. That's for works in Anzac Highway near Morford Road. Early morning cameras, Brom Drive, Valley View, and Campbell Road at Elizabeth Downs. Anchored down with an 8-night South Pacific Carnival cruise from $999 per person at Flight Centre and receive $400 onboard credits. Book now at Flight Centre. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
The Advertiser is giving you the chance to win a share of $50,000 in IGA gift cards to get your groceries on us this Christmas. Buy the paper, find the daily code word today and enter online. Conditions apply. SAT 24/1488.
If you're packing up your family to travel across the land will treat you different in a Dave Benson caravan.
Here at DBC, it's the end zone of our $500,000 sale. With hotter deals than ever, ample stock and on-site manufacturers helping us crunch the numbers hard. Ending in a massive 3-day blitz as we team up with Electric Bug and Barbecue Adelaide for on-site bargains. Thursday 29 to Saturday November 30. Get on in today, because the best bargains of the year are only here at Dave Benson Caravans.
Now it's a big congratulations to Tony Johnson, who's just been awarded Senior Strata Community Manager of the Year for 2024 for South Australia. And Tony is now a 3-time. He's won this award 3 times.
And also Lionel Kalako, former Rising Star winner, was judged Strata Community Manager of the Year 2024.
Which tells the whole story, really. When it comes to strata management, nobody does it better than Stratorama. They literally take the drama out of strata management, from maintenance and insurance to compliance, financials and communication.
With rock-solid award-winning service in their DNA, you know you're in good hands. So if you're frustrated by the whole strata thing, talk to Tony and his team.
And remember, it's easier than you think to switch to Stratorama. If you own a strata or community title, call for some free advice today or visit stratorama.com.au.
Right Price, Adelaide's best in heating and cooling, has risen to new heights. Literally, Right Price are now your roofing people too. Same exceptional service, value and quality. From total roof replacement, including tiled roof installation, to tile roof repairs, cleaning and painting. And for peace of mind, a rock-solid quote. So the only surprise you'll get is how magnificent your roof and home looks. Do it right. Visit rightpriceroofing.com.au.
You can get your roof right at Right Price.
You wake up in the morning, there's 2 scam texts and a fake invoice email on your phone. It's the never-ending war against scammers. But Australian banks are fighting back. Intelligence sharing between banks will identify new types of scams faster. A new payment system to make sure you pay the right person is being rolled out. Unique identity checks will help combat identity theft. And there'll be more double checks when you're paying someone new. Australian banks are working to protect you.
Drive away in the Tucson Hybrid by Hyundai from just $46,990 drive away. T's and C's apply.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
12 minutes to 7, police and weather in just a moment. Stacey Lee in an hour's time. And after 7 o'clock today, we're going to talk about the future of the anti-gambling advertising legislation. We're going to talk about the no longer existing future of the disinformation bill, and indeed the Barley 9. That's all coming up after 7 o'clock.
George has had a crack on the Duttons text line. He says, your program has reached a new low. The elbow bashing feels very much like bullying. And all he has been doing is the right things to ease the cost of living crisis, which he largely inherited, and is gradually turning around. Now, George, I don't know if it's, in your mind, the program's reached a new low. What you're doing there is you're actually having a crack at the listeners, because it's unfettered public commentary flying in at a rate of knots on the Duttons text line suggests, sadly, for you, mate, that you are very much in a minority here. We should actually have the Duttons text line up in a version where the listeners can watch it with us in real time.
People can see it live.
Wouldn't it be really, really good?
And just
like a scrolling comment section on a website.
It's a great idea. On the live stream.
We put the question in a completely neutral way. What do you think? And so far, it's about 30 WTFs and 3 along the same lines as you, George, lay off elbow.
And George, give us some credit. We've gone much, much lower. Mark Analak at the Weather Bureau joins us on the line. Morning here, Mark.
Good morning, guys.
Mark, what kind of Monday have we got ahead?
Yeah, still pretty humid out there. Humidity is up around 70-80%.
Temperature 20 degrees, and this afternoon we're expecting a partly cloudy top of around 28 degrees. With a bit more heat in the air, there's still just a slight risk of a shower developing this afternoon with the afternoon heat. So partly cloudy, 28 degrees today. Tomorrow, showers return. A shower or two at 32 tomorrow. Shower or two on Wednesday, 24, before it finally clears up in time for the weekend.
Hey,
So
Mark,
28 degrees.
Oh, sorry, Mark. That rain on Saturday, it seemed to be a really hard pattern to predict because it felt like all the big stuff went up north or down south, but a lot of it seemed to miss the city.
It went all around us. We in the Weather Bureau call it the Adelaide Donut for some reason. We just had a nice little hole over Adelaide and it rained all around us. And it's probably my fault. I stupidly emptied the rainwater tank in preparation for it. So, yeah, I'll take responsibility for that one.
Because Will had a couple of drops in Grange. I spent the whole weekend in Aldinga and it rained non-stop, not solidly, but steadily for about 5 hours down the road.
Yeah, and it's still raining over Renmark at the moment. They're up to about 50 millimetres, so there are parts of the state that saw a fair bit.
Adelaide Donut, I like it.
Yeah, we're going to use the Adelaide Donut, Mark. You should trademark that. Mark Analak there at the Weather Bureau. Let's head to SAPOL. Senior Constable Kate Dawson's on the line. Kate, this is interesting. A car's been spiked at Edwardstown overnight. What's going on here?
Yeah, this was about 8:15 last night. Police were patrolling in Edwardstown when they spotted a Kia sedan at an address on Angus Avenue. So checks on the car revealed it had been stolen from a Plympton address the day before on Saturday. So as the car left the address, quick-thinking patrols deployed road spikes, puncturing all four of the car's tyres. However, the car didn't stop and it took off in a westerly direction away from police at quite low speeds. Polair was luckily quickly overhead and they tracked the Kia through the back streets of Edwardstown and Plympton Park before the car popped out on Marion Road and travelled south. So the car then turned into the back streets of Marion before it hit a dead end on the parade, which is just near the Oaklands wetlands. So here nearby patrols swarmed in and placed the driver, a 48-year-old man, under arrest. He's been charged with illegal use of motor vehicle, driving unlicensed and dangerous driving to escape police pursuit. He's been refused bail and will appear in the Christie's Beach Magistrates Court today, so really good job there by police.
Also down south, Kate, there was a robbery at a supermarket in Trott Park last night.
Yeah, this was just before midnight. Police were called to a supermarket on Hyson Drive after reports that two men had entered. One was armed with apparently what appeared to be a firearm before they demanded cash from the till. So the men stole a small amount of cash and cigarettes before leaving the store on foot. Thankfully, staff members weren't physically injured, but it must have been a very scary incident. So police dog Enzo and his handler were called in to assist with the search, but they've been unable to locate the suspects at this time. One suspect was wearing dark-coloured clothing and the other was wearing a high-vis top, and both men had their faces covered. So crime scene investigators will be attending the scene this morning, and we're just asking anybody who may have been in the area last night, who maybe saw these two blokes leaving the scene, or anybody with any information is asked to contact Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000.
Good on you, Kate. Senior Constable Kate Dawson from SAPOL there.
7 minutes to 7, 8223 0000 the number. You can text us on the Duttons text line as well, or jump on the Foodland Supermarkets Facebook and YouTube live stream. Let's head to the US. Tim Lester for 7 News joins us. Tim, good morning to you.
Morning, guys.
Tim, this is a court case that a lot of people, well, certainly inside the US, but around the world are following closely. The Menendez brothers are going to appear in court via video link tomorrow.
You bet they're following it closely. In fact, so much so, Los Angeles authorities have decided to make a lottery out of the 16 public places in the courtroom tomorrow. So they're extending lottery tickets and will select 16 lucky members of the public to actually go into the court and witness what's going on, notwithstanding the fact that the Menendez brothers actually won't be in the court, we don't think. They'll still be in prison in San Diego, a couple of hours away, and appearing via video link. But this is an important step in their hopes of winning freedom and a reduced sentence for the shotgun murder of their parents in their Beverly Hills home way back at the end of the 1980s.
It's hard to believe it's that long ago, Tim. It feels like it was only yesterday to me, this trial, because it just got saturation coverage. What's the actual argument for reducing their sentence, though?
Well, the family has come to the support of the two Menendez boys saying, well, they're not boys now, they're in their 50s, but saying that when they carried out the killings, the younger, particularly Eric, had been sexually abused over many years by his father, Jose Menendez, an executive in the entertainment business and living in swanky Beverly Hills. And they say that sexual, the sexual assaults on him carried out over a number of years really, if it was in a court case today, would have produced a very different finding. There's been a change in district attorney here in Los Angeles, and the new DA will also consider a push for them to essentially pardon or release the two brothers early.
An amazing story.
It certainly is. There'll be hundreds of millions of people around the world that'll be seeing that evidence that's been given by the Menendez brothers. Thank you, Tim. Tim Lester for 7 News, covering the story in the United States. Let's take some calls and some interactions on what has been the hottest topic this morning, the decision to bring the Bali Nine home. Gary in Collinswood's got some thoughts. Good morning to you, Gary.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Look, I agree with everybody that has spoken on the text about bringing these people home. I don't agree with it, and I'll tell you for why. You had a young gentleman, Greg, on your program 3 or 4 times over the couple of years. His mother went missing in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And ended up got killed. As we know what happened there. Where was Mr. Albanese, Miss Wong then? Where were they? No, they were tiptoeing around the tulips. They wouldn't upset anyone. Why didn't they go hard there?
That's a really good point, Gary. In fact, Gary, you're quite prescient, mate.
Yeah.
Keep listening, because in about an hour, we're actually going to be talking to Greg later today, because there's been some more developments, or there are going to be some more developments in his mum's case. But, it's actually an issue, and it's an issue for the family that were killed in the Philippines. If you're Chappelle Corby or you're the Bali Nine, like, the Australian government often bends over backwards to help people who've actually got themselves through criminal conduct in a massive, deep you-know-what. Yet, if you've come to grief through a crime that's been perpetrated against you, you don't get any of the legal aid type assistance that you do in Australia. It's such a weird inconsistency. Alexander Downer wrote a great column about it a few years ago for the Tizer, where we're unfettered by the shackles of being in, public holding public office anymore. He said, one of the things that I didn't realise until I became foreign minister was that every drunken or drug-addled miscreant in Australia, the moment they got themselves into trouble overseas, they immediately turned around and said, what's the federal government going to do to help?
That feels like it's one of those roles where your vision of what it is going to be would be markedly different from the actual experience. So in their mind, your foreign affairs, I'm going to be coming up with alliance structures and trying to make sure there's peace in the world and negotiating all sorts of interesting trade deals. In reality, it's, no, we've had another Australian who's stolen a beer mat from a backpacker's minister.
That was the case that he mentioned, beer mat mum.
Yeah.
Stole a singer mat in some dingy bar in Bangkok, got arrested, and then turned around and said, I can't believe what's happening in this country. Yeah. What are they going to do about it? You're sucked in. You shouldn't have stolen the beer mat.
5AA News is coming up. More on the Bali Nine, and indeed, it was going to be a big week in federal politics, but the government's just about shelved everything. We'll take you through it next.
5AA's Tech Talk with your host, Adelaide tech guy Richard Pascoe. Thanks to Harvey Norman Computers.
Black Friday sales are huge. It's the ideal time to get into Harvey Norman if you're thinking of upgrading a Windows computer. Get up to 35% off all Windows computers during the Black Friday sales. Yep, 35% off. You'll also get a great price on these 2 Acer PCs. Acer Aspire Go is down to just $598. That is powered by an Intel i5 chip, and you don't normally find PCs with that sort of power under $600. There's also the Acer Aspire Lite with 16GB of RAM, powered by the even bigger Intel i7 chip, and that's only $798. Get your favourite tech for less during the Black Friday sale at Harvey Norman.
Check out this great offer at a Harvey Norman store near you.
Everybody knows Right Price are the heating and cooling experts. So imagine how much you can save when they join forces with EcoVantage, the incentive experts. Together with Right Price, EcoVantage will help you source all the government incentives you're entitled to when it comes to heating and cooling your home, including energy-efficient heat pump hot water systems. Right Price and EcoVantage, the best of both worlds when it comes to heating, cooling and government incentives.
There's naughty or nice, stunning and stylish, or tasty and tasteful. Merry Christmas, folks. I'm Brett Charlesworth, and they're just three of the eye-popping Christmas gifts we make for you at Charlesworth Nuts. They're all overflowing with our amazing nuts and chocolates and made with great pride by our talented South Aussie team. With 100 different gift boxes, packs and hampers, there is literally something for everyone. You simply can't go wrong. 11 family-owned stores or shop online. Why Charlesworth? Because fresh nuts taste better.
The news and information that matters. This is 5AA News. Always Adelaide.
Partly cloudy and 28 today. With the 7 o'clock news, I'm Jess Adamson.
Make RAA approved windscreen repairer Complete Windscreens your insurer repairer of choice. Visit completewindscreens.com.au.
2 men are on the run after a frightening robbery at a Trot Park supermarket overnight. Just before midnight, police were called to a shopping centre on Hyson Drive, where the men, one armed with a firearm, demanded cash and cigarettes from staff. The attendant wasn't hurt. The suspects, who had their faces covered, were wearing dark clothing, one with a high-vis top. A 33-year-old woman has been airlifted to hospital after a serious crash at Kapunda last night. Police were called to the Teely Highway just after 8, where a car travelling north left the highway and rolled down a hill. The highway was closed in both directions between Greenock Road and East Terrace, but has now reopened. An online fundraiser to support the families of 2 young Australian women who died of suspected methanol poisoning has raised more than $100,000. Christy Sullivan reports.
19-year-old best friends Bianca Jones and Holly Bowles fell ill after a night out in Laos and were rushed to separate Thai hospitals. Bianca died on Thursday while Holly passed away a day later. Bianca's grieving father is calling on the Laos government to investigate their deaths to the fullest extent. The families have now set up a GoFundMe to help assist them in bringing their daughters home. Funds raised from the campaign will also be donated to organisations already working to combat methanol poisoning through education and prevention efforts, and help launch initiatives to educate travellers, local communities and businesses about the dangers of methanol poisoning and how it can be avoided. The family say they want to honour the memory of Bianca, Holly and others by turning this tragedy into a mission for change.
The federal opposition expects more businesses will go under if the government fails to address growing economic pressures. More than 1,300 business insolvencies were recorded in October alone. Deputy Opposition Leader Susan Lee says it's devastating to see.
And to look at retail, hospitality, construction and manufacturing and see that our businesses are going to the wall at record rate just tells us that we know this government does not have the economic plan to deal with the economy and turn things around.
There are calls for the federal government to lift the current cap for the number of psychology sessions rebated under Medicare. The Australian Clinical Psychology Association says the current allowance of 10 sessions a year isn't enough with many patients and denies thousands of Australians the care they need. An online petition, which already has around 20,000 signatures, is being circulated. 2024 has seen 64 women killed allegedly by male violence. Today marks the United Nations International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. International expert in domestic and family violence, Professor Kate Fitzgibbon, says while the issue is gaining more media attention and political commitment, more funding is needed.
It's fantastic that the media are covering that issue. That is a shift. We didn't used to talk about this, so it is really encouraging that we do now see a light being shone on the national crisis of violence against women. But we also know that this violence is inherently preventable, but we need sustained and long-term committed efforts.
Now turning to 5AA Sport.
Get a free fuel card with a new Triton, Pajero, Outlander or Eclipse from Agostino Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Mawson Lakes.
Hello again, Tom Wren.
And to you as well, Jess. Not good in the cricket. Australia hoping to find some respectability when day 4 of the first test resumes against India in a few hours' time in Perth. That's according to paceman Josh Hazlewood after a disastrous third day, which saw the hosts crash to be 3 for 12 at stumps, still needing a further 522 runs to win with only 7 wickets in hand.
Banning some time. It's obviously a long series. It's a 5-match series, so if we can put some overs into their top, their top quicks, I guess that's probably the couple of goals that we need to tick off tomorrow. And if a couple of guys find some form and score, an 80, 90 or even 100, that's probably the positives we can take out of it.
Meantime, at the IPL auction, Josh Hazlewood, who we just heard from there, has gone as the most expensive Aussie for $2.29 million to the Royal Challengers. Marcus Stoinis, Jake Fraser-McGurk and Mitchell Starc all fetching more than $1 million. And South Australia will resume at 4 for 139 on day 3 of its Shield clash against Western Australia. That's after the Warriors were dismissed for 373 in their first innings. To motorsport, Max Verstappen is the Formula One champion for a 4th straight year after a 5th place finish was enough for him to secure the title. That was ahead of Lando Norris. The Las Vegas race was won by George Russell, while Aussie Oscar Piastri came in 7th. To soccer, Leicester City has sacked manager Steve Cooper after a 2-1 loss to Chelsea. The Foxes currently sit in 16th place in the Premier League. That's after 12 games. Meantime, there were 2 games overnight, with Liverpool coming from behind to beat Southampton 3-2, while Ipswich and Manchester United drew 1-1. Briefly elsewhere, Italy has won tennis's Davis Cup for a 2nd year in a row, and the Wallabies have gone down to Scotland 27-13. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Thanks, Tommy. Now checking 5AA traffic.
Control Air, Australia's commercial refrigeration and air conditioning experts. Visit controlairaustralia.com.au.
At mile end, a 3-car collision at the intersection of Henley Beach Road and South Road. Solid delays through there at the moment. Albertson level crossing fault, Fussell Place to the railway line, and works to look up for Darlington, Main South Road near Brookside Road. Cameras, Baldock Road, Ingle Farm and Cavan Road at Dry Creek this morning. JB Hi-Fi's Black Friday Blitz is on now with crazy deals like $160 off a Sony PS5 console. JB's Black Friday Blitz on now. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Stay cool. Service your aircon at Automasters. And keep cool with Cool Now, Pay Later options.
28 and partly cloudy today, 32 with a shower or 2 tomorrow, 24 for Wednesday and 23 for Thursday and Friday. Right now it's 20 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Setting the agenda for South Australia. This is 5AA, always Adelaide.
Drive away in the Tucson Hybrid by Hyundai from just $46,990 drive away. T's and C's apply.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
8 after 7. Wish we had good news for you to start the 7 o'clock hour, but if you live in the western suburbs, there's a real traffic issue that's developing around the Henley Beach Road, South Road intersection. A few of our listeners are there. Brent, first cab off the rank. Brent, what can you see?
I'm past it now. I'm travelling the other way, which is good.
Lucky you.
But, yeah, it must have only happened maybe a few minutes just before I'd sort of come past. But, yeah, no one's moving.
So whereabouts was it exactly, Brent?
We're near the Sevi Theatre there, Henley Beach Road and South Road. So just blocking both of the southbound lanes on South Road. And
bad enough
the
there
fire
at the best
truck
of
sort of
times.
and then the fire truck sort of blocking one of the lanes northbound, so you've got to merge into one to get past it.
That's a nightmare. Brent, thank you. Raymond, I think, is, as we speak, stuck in that traffic snarl. Is that right, Raymond?
Yeah, that's correct, boys. So I've hit the back of the line just under the Port Road Bridge. So I'm guessing it's slow here, so I'm guessing the line-up is all the way from that incident on South Road and Henley Beach Road all the way back here, and yeah, it won't take long to be going further back again, I dare say, with the amount of traffic here at the moment.
No good.
Thank you for that, Raymond.
Go on, Raymond.
Multiple cars involved in an accident that SAPOL are aware of and monitoring. As there's updates, we'll bring them to you. But maybe if there'll be residual impacts, I imagine, on some of those other thoroughfares that people might try and go through back streets and so forth. If you've got further information for us, let us know, because that's going to be a disaster for people coming in from the west or heading along South Road, which, as David just said, is always problematic. 8223 0000 is the number. This is an interesting story while you're sitting in your car, or wherever you might well be. There's a new inquiry that's kicking off into the CFMEU's South Australian branch. They're investigating if its former boss received kickbacks, whether there were links to organised crime, whether he gave himself some pay rises. The probe's been triggered by an inquiry into allegations of CFMEU criminal and corrupt conduct in Victoria. So they started in Victoria, and now they've said, well, maybe there's a bit to look at with what happened when the Victorian branch took over the South Australian branch under John Setker's leadership in 2022. The terms of reference seek to uncover how the branch turned a 2021 surplus into a $1.6 million loss within 3 years, and this is in the terms of reference, how a viable independent branch became functionally insolvent. They're also going to check if threats were made against officials aimed at undermining administrators that were called in by the Albanese government. The Liberals' Ben Hood called into the program a short time ago with his thoughts.
Why would South Australians think that the South Australian CFMEU would be any different to the Victorian CFMEU? Mark Irving, KC, looking into corruption and other issues within the South Australian CFMEU only highlights that there are extreme issues with the Victorian takeover here in South Australia. This is something that the opposition has raised time and time again with the Premier, with the Attorney General. We asked for the Police Commissioner's investigation and paper that it was given to the Premier to be released, and that found that there was some issues, but nothing really to worry about. Mind you, now we do have Mark Irving's investigation into the South Australian CFMEU. There are serious questions still to be answered by the Premier and the government on this issue.
It also helps explain why, under Victorian control, the CFMEU, now led, or up until his departure, was being led here in South Australia by John Setker, but the people who are still running it are Setker loyalists. It explains why they were so keen to sideline the South Australian Workers' Entitlements Redundancy and Training Scheme burst and replace it with Incolink, because in Victoria, Incolink is a huge cash cow, not just for the union, but for the Victorian Master Builders Association. So you've got this gentleman's agreement over there between the construction industry and the construction union. They both know which side their bread's buttered on. It's quite complicated, but there's a story now within the Victorian MBA. My understanding is that some of the other state MBAs and the national MBA think that Victoria has become so intertwined with the CFMEU that it should be kicked out of the Master Builders Association. And there are board members at the Victorian Master Builders who are now speaking out about the way the Victorian MBA runs. So you had a perfectly fine redundancy scheme, entitlement scheme here in SA that has now been steamrolled by Incolink. And this is the thing that we've spoken about this, I've written columns about it. The SA MBA has been speaking out about it for ages to Peter Malinowska, saying this is what they're doing, this is their new revenue model. And it helps explain how if you don't care about fines, or now you've got money that appears to be disappearing for who knows what reasons, it's kind of reassuring to have a mob like Incolink behind you because you can get money out of it.
The Premier will be on the program after 8:30 today, and we'll be putting questions to him with regard to that story. Let's get into federal politics, because the Albanese government have had a big weekend that means they might not have a very big last sitting week of the year. So to give you the broader context, this is the last sitting week for 2024. The first sitting week of 2025 is slated to be in the first week of February. If there's an early election, there might not even be a sitting a week before the election. So the decisions that are being made today and over the weekend are significant in a timing sort of a sense. So let's start with the disinformation bill. The disinformation bill, this was the bit of legislation that would have meant social media companies would have been required to police misinformation on their apps or face fines. That's dead. The Communications Minister, Michelle Rowland, confirmed on Sunday that it was finished. They couldn't get enough support in the Senate, so it was gone. Don Farrell confirmed that position on Sky News.
Well, look, both the opposition in a former iteration said that they wanted that legislation. The Greens said that they wanted to support that legislation. They've joined forces now to stop the legislation. Unfortunately, that's the end of it. There will be no legislation, the misinformation, disinformation, there will be no legislation until there simply won't be any legislation, Andrew. The opportunity to support that legislation was going to be this week. The Coalition and the Greens have joined forces to block it. That's the end of it.
So it's done and dusted. Peter Dutton says...
They've done him a favour. They've done him a favour, killing it.
Yeah. Peter Dutton says it's a win for free speech and democracy. Here's Michaela Cash.
Who would have thought that a government in Australia would ever bring in a bill to censor the Australian people?
So disinformation bill is dead and buried. It's gone. So the other big ticket that was on the legislative agenda this week was banning of gambling advertisements here in Australia. Now, there was a lot of conjecture about how this would work, what would be banned. I think, broadly speaking, there is community support for some sort of control on the gambling advertising that does seem to be now truly out of control in this country. Well, that seems to be gone as well. Maybe not permanently, but at least into 2025. There's been some internal fighting within Federal Labor about how expansive those controls should be. That's been postponed. And as I said at the start, given the nature of the sitting calendar and the looming federal election, that one might not be back until after the next federal election, if it's called early next year and we don't get a sitting week in that first week of February. So that one could be gone as well. That's not the only thing the federal government are up to over the weekend. They have secured a deal with the Indonesian government for the remaining members of the Bali Nine to return to Australia. The Prime Minister sat down with his counterpart, Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto, at the sidelines of APEC in Peru. Now, for those playing a bit of a history lesson, there are 5 remaining that are serving life sentences for an attempt in 2005 to smuggle 8 kilos of heroin out of Indonesia and into Australia. Worth about $4 million was the street value at the time. The expectation is if and when they return, they will serve some more additional time, but this was a life sentence by the Indonesian definition of a life sentence, which is you don't get out. It is a life sentence.
Life means life.
Not the Australian version, which is probably what they'll get when they come back here. Tanya Plibersek was asked, I think, a key part of this conversation that our Dutton's texters have been asking this morning, well, if we got them back in the deal, what did we give up in the deal? Tanya Plibersek was asked, don't Australians deserve to know what the deal is that has been done?
Well, Matt, I don't think it's appropriate to be talking about any discussions between the Australian government and the Indonesian government at this time. It is a really delicate thing. Whenever Australians are in trouble overseas, Australian consular services go out of their way to help. These people have been in jail for almost 20 years now in Bali, and I'm sure that their families and many Australians would like to see them back on Australian soil.
Asked by Natalie Barr on Channel 7 Sunrise program just
that
a short time ago.
That is a pathetic answer. How is it not appropriate? Of course it's appropriate. It's wholly appropriate. Like, there's no quid without a pro quo. What have we agreed to? Who are the... It's going to invite all sorts of speculation. I mean, heaven forbid, it might be some Jemiah Islamiyah psycho who's been given a... how's it going to work?
It defies belief that they've known that all weekend.
What about the vote?
There's no line.
Here's the vote-winning roll call, though, of people who have been led out with the enthusiastic support of the Albanese government. The Bali Nine, Julian Assange, and several hundred criminal non-citizens who, upon being released, have started re-offending again. There's a victory. There's a way to win hearts and minds of the Australian voters. Unbelievable. I need someone in his office who can just stand up and go, mate, what are you thinking? He doesn't have a what are you thinking guy.
He doesn't have a what are you thinking guy. He doesn't have a...
It's laughable.
What are we going to say when someone asks us what the deal is guy either?
Yeah.
There should be a few of them.
Right, we didn't see that one coming.
How is that on the line? That question's been asked 48 hours after the story emerged. Unbelievable.
It's not appropriate. You heard it here first from Tanya Plibersek.
48 hours later. 20 years ago, our very own Jess Adamson in the newsroom this morning was covering the story of the Bali Nine for 7 News. Jess, good morning to you.
Good morning, boys. Wow, I can't believe it's 2 decades ago. Incredible.
What a news cycle it was, Jess. I hope as many of our listeners as possible saw it. That piece you wrote the other day in the Tiser about the Boxing Day tsunami was an amazing piece of journalism. But, we had that. We had the Corby story. We had the backdraft of the Bali bombings.
Yes.
Of all the trials and then the executions.
Yes.
And in the midst of that, the Bali 9. And you were there.
It was a massive story, and because of the Indonesian justice system, it is just so unpredictable, as you would know well. We spent a lot of time over there because you'd go to court and, there was so much anticipation leading up to the court dates, and then the judge would just say, we're just going to adjourn for 2 or 3 weeks. And it was always so expensive for us to fly back with all the camera gear, so we just stayed. And because of that, we actually got to know the Bali 9 reasonably well because we had nothing better to do than visit them in Karokaban prison and the holding cells that they were in. And so we spent quite a bit of time with them and their families. We took them McHappy Meals on a regular basis. That was their request.
You could just go in and out of the jail.
Oh, that's the thing.
With Macca's for them.
Absolutely. And they wanted us to visit them. Renee Lawrence in particular was hungry for the Women's Day and New Idea magazine, so we were getting them flown over to give to her because she was really keen to read about the coverage.
Because she was for a while looking like she was going to get the death penalty along with Chan and Sukumaran, wasn't
Absolutely, she
Yeah,
was. And you could really see the fear in her eyes. There was one bizarre night when we were there where they did a full reenactment of the night that they were arrested, and so the Indonesian police strapped plastic bags full of white powder to their bodies, got them wearing those ridiculous Hawaiian shirts and all of the outfits, and paraded them through the airport and then through basically the city streets and back to the hotel where they were arrested. And we just had this unbelievable access to that. We were just standing right there watching it all unfold, and I just remember the fear in her eyes then of the realisation of what they'd got themselves into.
Did you think on balance, because I think it's possible to scratch your head at what the Albanese government is doing, but also to feel a kind of sympathy for them. They just were in over their head taking the stupidest risk possible in a country that demonstrably has zero tolerance for this kind of stuff, weren't they?
100%, and they weren't very smart. I actually did feel like I 100% can see the Indonesian government is very proud of its, no drugs kind of rules and so forth. So I can understand why they are very sensitive about this development. But these kids were just stupid, and they were led by people that were a lot smarter than them, and they just got themselves in over their head.
Amazing.
Great insight, yes.
Was Corby there at the time, or she came to the prison later, didn't she?
She was there at the time, yes, and so we also kind of paid visits to her, but she had so many Australian tourists that wanted to visit her, so she in the end just said no. But at one stage, it was like
what tourists just wanted, I'm going to go and see Chappelle.
So you could turn up as a tourist at Karokaban prison. I just love to catch up with Chappelle Corby, and they would say, yeah, come in.
Yeah, and then she just got so sick of it that they actually just stopped. But yeah, for a while there, we took her some makeup in the early days, and it's bizarre. It's a bizarre country.
Did you work with Sydney Wapner up there?
Yes.
Yeah. Lovely.
She was always leading the pack.
Yeah, she's a gun.
Fantastic.
Amazing. Excellent.
That was great, Jess. Thank you so much. We'll let you get back to the newsroom. Jess Adamson covered the Bali 9 20 years ago. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Stephen Rowe is going to join us to talk about the Australian men's cricket team.
Yeah, you might want to go la 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 la.
I would suggest he's going to use words that aren't in the dictionary. He's going to make sounds. He's going to express disappointment. This could go anywhere. He might get dumped. I don't know.
Get the button ready.
All I'm going to say is I'd hang around to find out. That's next. Stephen Rowe. First traffic. Black Friday sales are on now at Barbecue Adelaide, Weber Stores, Jeps Cross and Mile End. Minimum 10% off store-wide.
Thanks, Will. At Mile End, 3-car collision at the intersection of Henley Beach Road and South Road, seeing solid delays through there. Alberton level crossing fault, Fussell Place at the railway line. Works at Tea Tree Gully to look out for today. North East Road near Perseverance Road, and starting to get a little bit busy for the drive-in South Road at Tonsley, just as you get off the Southern Expressway. Cameras Cavan Road, Dry Creek and Horsey Road, Elizabeth East this morning. Visit the virtual reality experience at the TTP Interchange tomorrow to visualise the future of SA's transport in 30 years. Transportstrategy.sa.gov.au. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Hi, Daniel Talia here, General Manager of Home. That's HAUME. If you're thinking about selling your home and it's in our price range, we'll buy it. Forget spending thousands getting your home ready for sale. We'll offer you market value right now. And the settlement can be up to 12 months if you like, which gives you loads of flexibility. That's how easy it is. To get in touch with us today, visit home.com.au and remember haume.com.au. At Home, we buy homes.
Summer's on the way. Beat the rush and organise your Walco pool blanket now. Keep your pool clean, warm and reduce evaporation. Uncover the savings with a Walco pool blanket. Visit walco.com.au.
Now listen up, some people might think that Police Home Care Services is home care designed just for retired police. Well, it's not. It's actually home care for everyone.
Yeah, these guys are lovely. One thing is definitely certain. Police Home Care Service, they're all about protecting your independence at home, and it's always on your terms.
And look, they've got a great track record. As a trusted and approved My Aged Care provider, Police Home Care Services have more than 30 years' experience in aged care and disability care. And because they understand that everybody has different needs and priorities in life, their home caregiving services can be adjusted to what works for you.
So that can be anything from helping you prep meals to general housework, gardening, a trip to the shops or doctor's appointments even. This is the thing. Remember this, though. You don't need to be a retired police officer. They will do this for everyone. And as you'd expect, every carer at Police Home Care Services is held to the highest standards.
It's a great organisation. You're always in good hands with Police Home Care Services. Visit policehomecare.com.au for more information.
Don't just send it, ace it.
If your current job is driving you bonkers, get outdoors and hit the road. ACET Transport Solutions is growing and they need more drivers to keep their promise of perfect service. So, if you want a career that'll take you places, get in touch with the team at ACET Transport Solutions. Visit acettransport.au.
Don't just send it, ace it.
Over 60,000 Adelaide homes have said yes to saving money on their energy bills with Yes, your energy saving solutions. What's keeping you? Did you know that you might be eligible for a rebate on a new appliance like a dryer or fridge? You might even qualify for a purchase you've already made. Just visit the Yes website for a list of appliances and the size of the cashback available. For T's and C's on this unbeatable offer from your energy saving solutions, go to yes.net.au. That's yes.net.au.
Rosanna Mangiarelli here from 7 News. Join me and Will Goodings for Adelaide's leading news hour, 7 News, tonight at 6 o'clock.
Drive away in the Tucson Hybrid by Hyundai from just $46,990 drive away. T's and C's apply.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast. Stephen Rowe on 5AA Breakfast.
Now, the nation needs Stephen Rowe on this Monday morning. I don't want to put too much pressure on you, Rowe, but the nation needs you because we're all thinking things about the Australian cricket team that we don't have the vocabulary to say. You are never at a loss for words when it comes to sporting disappointment. Rowe, the Test team, take it away.
Oh, Pembo and Will, good morning. Yeah, you're right for most, but not if you're an Australian cricketer. Stumps day 3, we're 3 for 12. We need 522 runs. We're playing India in Perth. Oh boy, well, I made three predictions or statements through the week with Timmy G on the sports show with Merv Hughes and others and Kim Hughes and that, and I need to make 3 apologies from 3 different statements. I first said India are done after losing to New Zealand. We'll win this series 5-0. How's that tracking? I then went on to say Bumrah, he looks fat, he's eaten too many Tim Tams. He is unplayable. The only bowler in the history of the game to get 4 LBWs on a Perth track. That's a record.
You're right, he is unplayable.
Unplayable.
Just as a batsman. Yeah.
But it was an assessment and a statement. You said, I speak from the hip. Do you think he looks chubby? Yes, he does. But boy, can he bowl. And the last one, I said, put a fork in Kohli. He is cooked. He hasn't made a century in over 500 days. That was a classic Virat ton. Pure class. Oh boy, well, my cricketer summer, done, finished, put a lid on it, I'm cooked. Oh! No more predictions, statements or commentary. Where did that come from? And the other stat, we conceded 55 extras, the second worst amount of extras in an innings in our history. So we're not right. I blame the greedy guts Cricket Australia for the fixturing. We had one day as T20s. We had some cricketers that went to concerts. They didn't do a red ball game. The only bloke that played red ball cricket in the lead up to this, which used to be Ian Chappell's golden rule, And then it was Steve Waugh's golden rule. It was Alan Border's golden rule. You've got to play a Shield game before a Test series. The only one was Alex Carey.
Looks like it.
Well, it looks like it. I've had a gutful, and we're only day 4 of the first test. Here's the good thing. We'll come to Adelaide. It's a day-night test. We'll fill the joint. It's my favourite day of the series of the thing, and we'll absolutely smoke them in an innings and 20 runs. There's another prediction. Shut up, Stephen.
You've got to get one right eventually.
That's right.
I hope it's that one. That sounds good.
You big blind squirrel. Well done, boys. Have a good one. We'll see you at 4.
Get on your roll. At least you'll be right about the crowd. We'll be right about the crowd.
Looked like a Freo Gold Coast game, that crowd.
Yeah, they don't really get around the old Test match.
35,000?
Well, I suppose it's
35,000 empty seats.
Yeah, that's right. Optus doesn't lend itself to looking like it's full when it's half full. It looks miserable.
But we'll be chockers.
Be chockers here. We're going to have to carry the nation, I think, here in South Australia.
That's what we do.
Exactly right. 5AA News is coming up. Stacey Lee's putting someone in the hot seat next.
This is 5AA News. Always Adelaide.
Partly cloudy and 28 today. With the 7:30 news, I'm Jess Adamson.
Chipped windscreen? RAA approved repairer Complete Windscreens repairs it from just $99. Find the big red koala.
A Trot Park supermarket was robbed by 2 men last night. Senior Constable Kate Dawson says one was armed with what appeared to be a firearm and demanded money from the till.
The men stole a small amount of cash and cigarettes before leaving the store on foot. Thankfully, staff members weren't physically injured, so police dog Enzo and his handler were called in to assist with the search, but they've been unable to locate the suspects at this time. One suspect was wearing dark-coloured clothing and the other was wearing a high-vis top, and both men had their faces covered.
A new investigation's been launched into the John Setka-led CFMEU takeover in South Australia. The construction union, which was put under the control of an administrator in July, will probe former SA boss Marcus Pear's spending and benefits, as well as Mr Setka's role. The heartbroken father of one of 2 Australian women who died in a suspected mass poisoning incident in Laos has spoken of his grief. 19-year-olds Bianca Jones and Holly Bowles were travelling across Southeast Asia when they became unwell after drinking alcohol believed to have contained methanol. The pair were rushed to hospitals in Thailand where they later died. Mark Jones has paid tribute to his daughter.
Bianca wanted to explore the world, meet new friends, lead and create change for good. Her life had just begun. She was a young woman that had a lust for life and adventure, which has cruelly been cut short.
6 people have now died. Social media restrictions and reforms to the aged care sector will be ratified by federal parliament this week. MPs are in Canberra for what may be the last sitting week ahead of an election early next year. The Albanese government is trying to deal with as much legislation as possible before parliament rises on Thursday. November is the biggest month for scams involving debit and credit cards. Data shows scams linked to a debit or credit card are 34% higher than the normal monthly average in November. The NAB says most card-related scams happen on Thursdays between 4 and 6 p.m. Shoppers looking to grab a bargain in the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales are being urged to remain on alert for scams. A new study shows Australia spends more than $1.2 billion a year treating high blood pressure. Kiara Parker reports.
A study published in the Medical Journal of Australia shows patients are paying 40% from own pockets, while taxpayers cover 60%. Over half of the money spent goes to pharmacies for dispensing and handling drugs, while GP appointments contribute another $300 million to the cost of dealing with high blood pressure. High blood pressure is still the leading risk factor for death in Australia, as it is a leading cause of heart attacks and stroke. Around 34% of Australian adults are estimated to have high blood pressure, but only half of these people are aware they have it.
A 4th body has been found in the United Kingdom as Storm Bert continues to wreak havoc. Bridges and cars have been washed away as snow, rain and strong winds disrupt travel. More than 100 flood warnings are in place across the country. And Live Golf Adelaide has been named the world's best golf event for the 2nd year in a row at the World Golf Awards. The 11th annual World Golf Awards were held in Portugal over the weekend. Now turning to 5AA Sport.
Get a free fuel card with a new Triton, Pajero, Outlander or Eclipse from Agostino Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Mawson Lakes.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Jess. We'll start with cricket. Jasprit Bumrah has again cut through Australia like hot knife through butter, leaving India on track to record one of the biggest wins by a touring side in the first test in Perth. The Indian quick taking the wickets of Nathan McSweeney and Marnus Labuschagne to have the Aussies in real strife at just 3 for 12 at stumps on day 3, chasing another 522 runs to win.
Oh, he tries to let it go. Given. No shot offered. Labuschagne completely deceived by Bumrah by the pitch.
That call there on Fox Cricket. Meantime, South Australia will resume at 4 for 139 on day 3 of its Sheffield Shield clash against Western Australia, still trailing WA by 234 runs on its first innings. Max Verstappen has secured his 4th straight Formula One World Championship. Mercedes pairing of George Russell and Lewis Hamilton finishing 1-2 at Las Vegas, enough to deliver the Red Bull driver the title.
We maximised a lot of results. I think even sometimes overperformed in places. Plus our competition also in places they dropped a lot of points.
Aussie Oscar Piastri finished back in 7th place. To golf, and 22-year-old Elvis Smiley is the Australian PGA champion after holding off Cameron Smith and Mark Leishman to win the tournament at Royal Queensland by 2 shots. Meantime, American Maverick McNeely has just won the RSM Classic in Georgia by a single shot. And 2 games in the English Premier League overnight. Liverpool extending its lead at the top of the table with a 3-2 win against Southampton, while Ipswich and Manchester United drew 1-1. And Jess, that is the 5AA Sport.
Thanks, Tom. Now checking 5AA traffic.
Control Air, Australia's commercial refrigeration and air conditioning experts. Visit controlairaustralia.com.au.
At Milan, look out for an nasty 3-car collision this morning. It's at the intersection of South Road and Henley Beach Road, causing a few delays. Level crossing fault this morning at Alberton Fussell Place. Bit out of the way, so it shouldn't give you too many dramas. And do look out for works this morning at Northgate, Foster's Road near Swanbourne Drive. Cameras, Cavan Road, Dry Creek and Baloo Street at Ingle Farm. At Bob Jane T-Marts, get up to 40% off selected Pirelli, Yokohama and Kumo this Black Tie month. With Bob Jane T-Mart's best tyre price guarantee, they'll look after you. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Stay cool. Service your aircon at Automasters. And keep cool with Cool Now, Pay Later options.
28's the top today. Tomorrow 32 with a shower or 2. 24 for Wednesday and 23 for Thursday and Friday. Right now it's 20 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Her mum's on the phone while she's on her skates.
Careful, honey, don't get too close to the road.
She rides from the top of the driveway to test how fast she can go. And suddenly...
Wait, stop!
She's testing your brakes too. Stop and take time to ensure your car stops in time and the brakes are all you hit. Let Automasters test your brakes before someone else does. Call 1300 Automasters.
The holiday season is coming up fast. It's a time to celebrate, but it's also a time to think about those who may need extra care, especially if you're on holiday. With Care Alert's personal alert system, you can enjoy the festivities knowing your loved ones are never alone. In an emergency, one press on the SOS button and help will be on the way. Plus, with GPS tracking and automatic fall detection, you're connected to them wherever they are. And the two-way voice system lets them speak directly to someone in an instant, right from their device. This Christmas, make worry-free memories with Care Alert. It's the perfect solution to keep your loved ones safe and sound all season long. Give the gift of security and peace of mind this Christmas. Call 1300 75 85 95 or visit carealert.com.au today. Care Alert, because true care never takes a holiday.
Black Friday at Adelaide Appliance Gallery is just around the corner, and we've got some excellent deals to celebrate, like 20% off selected Smeg appliances, 20% off Portofino and Victoria, 15% off Lanier and Dolce Steel Novo, 10% off Fab, Sapphire and Diamond dishwashers, as well as 10% off Fab and integrated refrigeration. With offers this good, some terms, conditions and exclusions apply. Call into 155 Paynham Road, St Peters and pick up a Black Friday special, or visit adelaideappliancegallery.com.au.
What's on your wish list this Christmas? For people like Tanya, trapped in the unrelenting cost of living crisis, their wishes are much more desperate.
I wish
I could pay the rent this week and have some money for food. I wish I could give the kids a treat. I wish I didn't feel so helpless.
Vinnie's need your urgent support right now to give people like Tanya emergency relief this Christmas and beyond. Donate to the Vinnie's Christmas Appeal today. vinnies.org.au.
Let's see what's in the swear jar at Buy Urban Bathrooms and Kitchens. Here's one from Jasmine, the operations manager at Buy Urban and the driving force behind the success of all renovation projects. Jasmine swears to ensure all the trades arrive on time, every time, to ensure a seamless transition to your stunning Buy Urban bathroom. For a team that swears to deliver on quality and service, see Buy Urban Bathrooms and Kitchens, Adelaide's home renovation experts.
Her mum's on the phone while she's on her skates.
Careful, honey, don't get too close to the road. Wait, stop!
Let Automasters test your brakes before someone else does. Call 1300 Automasters.
Drive away in the Tucson Hybrid by Hyundai from just $46,990 drive away. T's and C's apply.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
20 minutes to wait. Stacey Lee in the 5AA Breakfast studio. You can watch along on the Foodland Supermarkets Facebook and YouTube live stream. The debate's already started off here, which is always a good sign when Stacey comes in. We'll get her in just a moment because we've got 2 more spots on the shortlist for someone who enjoy the Silver Nova Silver Seas luxury cruise to Singapore. All thanks to Silver Sea Luxury Cruising and Phil Hoffman Travel. Creating moments you'll never forget. Visit pht.com.au. 2 boarding calls this morning, 2 more people on the shortlist. Then the $18,000 prize is drawn on Friday during your program, Stacey.
It is. I will be on board the Silver Sea Silver Nova to draw the winner. I cannot wait. I'm going to get on early and do a tour of the boat and then try and find a little luggage stowaway to hide in.
Yeah, just hide in a cupboard or something.
Yeah, so I can just jump on as well.
Yeah, hide in a suitcase.
Why not? Why not?
That's going to be a lot of
fun.
fun.
That poor person carrying that suitcase up the bloody stairs.
Don't say.
I'm very excited. I'm so excited to get on board.
Brand new ship. Old cars, though, on the agenda this morning. Here's Frank Pangallo yesterday.
3 out of every 4 vehicles that are sold today are sold privately, either through online platforms or others. Last year in South Australia, there were more than 300,000 vehicles sold privately. Of those, just 82,000 were sold through licensed car dealers, second-hand dealers. Of course, when you buy one through a licensed second-hand dealer, you're going to be covered by legislated warranties and protections. But for private buyers, there is absolutely no consumer protection for them whatsoever in South Australia. And my legislation is going to fix that.
To me, this sounds like a no-brainer. Frank Pangallo's calling it his lemon laws. So what you would have to do if you're trying to sell a used car that's over a certain number of years old, go and get a roadworthy certificate. At a government authorised mechanic, so it would take a bit of organisation by the government. Get a technician to look at it, $100 up to $200 maximum. Get a roadworthiness certificate. That way, every buyer that comes to look at your car, you can give that to them and say, "This is roadworthy. It's been looked at properly, and you are not buying. You will not drive this out of the driveway and then have an issue with it, and then come back to me like so many people have had to do, and then I say." Yours now.
I worry it will affect the poor though, Stace, because I think what it will do, it will two things. It will make the cost of trading a older car by definition more expensive because you need to get the roadworthy certificate, and they're going to pass that cost on to the consumer. But it will take the pool. It will reduce the pool of cheaper cars in the market because if they're saying, okay, there's a whole bunch of cars, like maybe 10% of the vehicles in South Australia aren't actually roadworthy, then you're going to take them out. And I don't know.
No, let's not have unroadworthy cars not on the road. Like, I don't understand that argument because if a car's not roadworthy, it shouldn't be on the road anyway.
Well, define roadworthy. Because I know people in New South Wales who have like cars that are, for all intents and purposes, roadworthy, like they go. But you've got to jump through so many hoops and you get these pedants with their clipboards standing there going, actually, I'm not comfortable with the size of that steering wheel. Seriously.
Yeah, no, I know.
I just reckon it feels to me like people in Elizabeth and Nollunga who are driving cars that were made in the late 80s might end up being the ones who are affected the most by this.
So Frank Pangallo says
only if they're selling.
It'll cost between $100 and $200. And just sorry to cut you off, Stacey. The Australian Bureau of Statistics does a car census. The last one came out in 2021. And an interesting point of comparison between New South Wales and South Australia, the average age of a car, a passenger vehicle in South Australia, is about 11.9 years old. It's 9.7 in New South Wales. So you're dealing with a significantly older fleet, which by definition you'd imagine would mean a number of more defections.
And I understand what you're saying when you say, Dave, that it could disadvantage the poor. I think it will do the opposite. I think it will advantage the poor because you're not going to be buying a car that in 2 or 3 months' time can't drive on the road. You're not going to drive out of that person's house and the cops pull you over and say, this car's defected, because you would have this roadworthy certificate anyway.
But that means you'll have to pay more for a car.
$100 or $200. And you know what? I've bought and sold 3 or 4 used cars over my time, and I don't want to bring gender into this, but as a woman buying a used car, it is a minefield because I don't know what to look at, and people try and take advantage of women. It's like taking your car to get serviced, a mechanic. I don't know. They ring me and say this needs to be done, and I just feel, even though my husband doesn't know a whole lot more than me, I get them to ring him because I feel like they won't rip a man off as much as they'll rip me off. I'd be happy. It's true, though. That's how I feel because I'm not educated in cars. And even though there are some men that aren't educated in cars, I feel like they'll try it on with women. I always took my dad or my husband or even some dude on the street who looks a bit scary. Random. Can you come with me to buy a used car, please? Because I think I won't get ripped off if you're with me.
What do you think, folks? 8223 You can text us on the Duttons text line. I think the important distinction here is the on-sale component of this. This is not a regular roadworthiness check that everyone would have to undertake. It's in the event of sale, which, would have a mild inflationary effect. But the cost to having it repaired, having bought a lemon, I think would be significantly more than $100.
There's a bit of buyer beware to all this, though. Like, I paid $2,000 for my High Ace on Gumtree.
That one was not getting a roadworthiness tick, I reckon.
But I fixed it up myself.
Yeah.
An old family friend of ours who's a gun mechanic. He's retired now, but he loves tinkering with vans. So I probably had to spend another $1,500 on it. But I get it checked every year before I fire it up again for summer. But when I bought it,
you knew.
I knew that there was every chance that it might actually blow up on the Southern Expressway, which is exactly what it did. But no one died.
Well, that's a story with a happy ending, isn't it? No fatalities.
Win-win.
That's good.
And
None dead in Southern Expressway horror.
I think you're right that overwhelmingly the people who are buying used cars are those who probably are a bit more disadvantaged or younger, first-time, second car drivers. And for me, that was my first car, that was my second car, that was my third car.
What was your first car?
My first car was a Holden Astra.
Mine was a Mini and I bought it off my mum. That wasn't very roadworthy, that car.
Did she rip you off, or did you
take it back to the buyer?
Women being ripped off. What about sons being ripped off by their parents?
I don't know. I think it would take a bit of sorting out on the government's end to get mechanics and technicians that are actually going to do it right. But they've got that anyway with mechanics right now. You take it to an RAA-approved repairer when you need your service or whatever. I don't think this would be that hard to implement, and I think it would create a lot of peace of mind for car buyers and sellers. I'd feel better if I could just go and sell my second-hand car and give it to the buyer and say, oh, I've got this certificate for it. It works fine. It's been given the tick of approval. Here you go. I'd feel like less of a dodgy seller.
Looking forward to the program this afternoon, Stacey. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
On your stage.
You've started something because lots of calls are coming in now on the lemon agenda. So we'll get to some of those on the other side of the break. Jade Robran is coming up in just a moment as well. Stick around. What do you make of Frank Pangallo's lemon legislation? Black Friday sales are on now. Barbecue Adelaide, Weber Stores, Jeps Cross and Mile End. Minimum 10% off store-wide.
Thanks, Will. Still clearing up that 3-car collision at Mile End at the intersection of Henley Beach Road and South Road. Still got some delays there, obviously. Level crossing fault playing up at Albert's a little bit out of the way, so that's not too bad. Fossil Place at the railway line and works at Darlington to look out for this morning. Main South Road near Brookside Road. Cumberland's Blue East Red Eagle Farm and Cavan Road at Dry Creek. The King Black November sale ends soon. Save up to 60% on selected furniture designs. Hurry, sale ends soon. Shop online or visit a King Living showroom today. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Good afternoon, passengers. Please have your boarding pass and identification ready.
There's taste bud titillations, decadent desires, and the presidential hamper. Merry Christmas, folks. I'm Brett Charlesworth, and they're just 3 of the mouth-watering Christmas gifts we make for you at Charlesworth Nuts. With 100 different gifts, from just $10 to $250, there is literally something for everyone. They're all beautifully handmade, they look stunning, and they're filled with the most amazing products. 11 family-owned stores or shop online. Why Charlesworth? Because fresh nuts taste better.
5AA's Tech Talk with your host, Adelaide tech guy Richard Pascoe. Thanks to Harvey Norman Computers.
Black Friday sales are huge. It's the ideal time to get into Harvey Norman if you are thinking of upgrading a Windows computer. Get up to 35% off all Windows computers during the Black Friday sales. Yep, 35% off. You'll also get a great price on these 2 Acer PCs. Acer Aspire Go is down to just $598. That is powered by an Intel i5 chip, and you don't normally find PCs with that sort of power under $600. There's also the Acer Aspire Lite with 16GB of RAM, powered by the even bigger Intel i7 chip, and that's only $798. Get your favourite tech for less during the Black Friday sale at Harvey Norman.
Check out this great offer at a Harvey Norman store near you.
It's been SA's biggest cover-up. Thousands of pool owners all over South Australia implicated, and now it's about to be uncovered. Who's at the centre of it? Our friends, of course, at Walco.
That's right, it's what they do. It's just about time to wake your pool from its winter slumber and start thinking about all the summer fun you will have in it.
One of the best things you can do for your pool and your pocket is to get a locally made Walco pool blanket. It will keep your water clean and warm all summer long.
And I can tell you, I've got one of these. I've had it for several years and it still looks brand new. Walco pool blankets, they're made from quality stuff, so they don't perish like others do after a couple of summers. Plus, with a Walco pool blanket, you'll save money on water costs because they help stop evaporation.
Uncover the savings now with a Walco pool blanket. Visit walco.com.au today.
If you need to fix your pipes, call Precise. Call Precise. If your toilet's blocking up, call Precise. Call Precise. If your lights aren't turning on, or your hot water is gone, or a plumber or an electrician, call Precise. Precise.
Precise Plumbing and Electrical. Call 1300 700 200. That's 1300 700 200. Precise Plumbing and Electrical. On time, on budget, on the job.
Or a plumber or an electrician, call Precise. Call Precise.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head to 5AA on Facebook or YouTube. Drive away in the Tucson Hybrid by Hyundai from just $46,990 drive away. T's and C's apply.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
8 minutes to 8. Congratulations to Claude from McGill, who's on the short list for the Silver Sea Cruise, thanks to Phil Hoffman Travel. Announced on Friday. We're going to play the boarding call one more time before 9 o'clock. Stacey Lee was just in the studio talking about Frank Pangello's lemon legislation, which would make it incumbent upon people selling used cars second-hand to get a roadworthiness certificate before they were sold. Lots of thoughts coming in on the Duttons text line. We'll take some calls first, though. Carlos and Victor Harbour, good morning.
Morning, guys. This won't work, and this is just a bureaucrat asking for more bureaucracy. It will adversely affect the poor people in the community that need to buy a car. And a roadworthy only tells you whether the indicators work, the brakes work. You know, these are all things that if you're buying a second-hand car, you can go and get an RAA check on the car anyway. You know, are we now going to, you know, when you go and buy a house, the buyer goes and does an inspection. It's not up to the seller to, you know, say what's wrong or what's right with the house. So why would it be any different for a car?
Yeah, you know what, Carlos, you make a good point that I thought that a lot of people in the Duttons text line have made too. A roadworthiness test doesn't tell you that the engine is going to last and the transmission's good to go. No. It just tells you the indicators are working and the seatbelt's clicking, which is...
Well, the thing that went on my
feels pretty academic.
It was the radiator, and it just blew up. And the reason it blew up was because the car was like 30 years old.
Yeah, it's a good point being made by our listeners.
5,000 kilometres on it.
What do you make of all this, Jenny?
Oh, hi there. Yeah, look, one of my points was that I actually do agree with Carlos. Like, I think, yeah, the owner should be, you know, on the buyer. I'm not very good with cars, but I've always either taken someone, you know, that does know more about cars or gotten a check through the RAA. But another one is you're sort of assuming that everyone wants to buy a car that's, you know, roadworthy right away. Like my brother, and husband fix up cars, and they're not looking for a car that's, they're looking for a deal on Marketplace that they could do up over a few months and change the tyres, and some people want a quick sell for cheap. I don't know, putting in this legislation mucks about with the free market, I think.
I agree. That's a great call, Jenny. Both terrific calls. In fact, they're very thoughtful contributions coming through on the Duttons text line on this.
A lot of feedback still about Albo and the Barley 9 situation. Guy in Highgate says, after the Barlow and Chambers executions in Malaysia in 1986, anyone considering drug running in or out of Asia had to realise they were playing Russian roulette. Yet the Barley 9 were young and stupid, but you have to accept the consequences of your actions. And Terry says, these are all legitimate questions you're raising about the Barley 9 and also the CFMEU, but where was that energy during robo-debt? People died because of it. Now with the inquiry exposing the extent of the harm, it's shocking how silent some are when it truly matters. And I would say that the Pangallo laws are running about 50-50 on the text line. A lot of people saying cost, bureaucracy, impact on poorer motorists, and then a lot of other people saying, well, I wouldn't mind paying an extra $100, $200 or having that added to the price if it means I'm going to get a more reliable vehicle.
Keep them coming in, 0480 1395. Dutton's car dealerships in the Adelaide Hills and Murray Bridge. They are easy to do business with. They also bring us Jade Robran, who's out on the road, and we catch you up for the first time this morning. Good morning to you, Jade.
Yeah, good morning, fellas. I'm here with adventurer Dan Turner, who is about to set sail around the world. Dan, that is an incredible adventure. Tell us all about it. You're heading off tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm competing in the Mini Globe race, and it starts next month, 28th of December. So fly out to Spain tomorrow, and I'll get it round to Portugal and start heading around the world from there next month. It's a dream of mine that I've had for a long time now, and it's coming to fruition. So pretty.
Wow, I'm thinking of this big, beautiful boat, but in actual fact, you're sailing on a teeny tiny one. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so the boat's 5.8 metres long. It'll be the smallest boats in history to ever race around the world, and it's probably going to be the longest race of any sport in history. So it's a pretty big challenge, and obviously there's a lot of risks and challenges involved. But again, I'm really excited to have a go at it and just take it a step at a time.
How are you feeling about those challenges and the dangers out there? I mean, you're seeming very calm. I'd be freaking out right now.
I'm probably putting on a bit of a brave face, but I am nervous. I'm more so nervous about leaving the family, to be honest. I think leaving the family and being away from them for so long is probably making me more anxious than actually being out on sea. I've done a fair bit of time at sea now, and that has its own risks. But as I said, it's really what I'm really nervous about is being away from the family for potentially up to 18 months. So
how do you communicate with them when you're at sea?
So we've got a satellite phone, so I'll be able to contact them. I won't have internet as such. I'll be able to do some text messaging and that sort of thing. But I've made sure that I've paid a bit extra to be able to satellite call as much as I need to.
What about loneliness out there, all by yourself out in the ocean? You've got this little fella, Wilson. Tell us all about him. And of course, an ode to the movie.
Yeah, that's right, a note to the movie. It was actually given to me by my last workplace before I resigned to do this race, and they gave it to me as a bit of a gift, and I've sort of taken it with me now. Hopefully I'm not talking to him too much, but you never know by the end of it. So it's just a bit of a note to the race. So.
You might come back with very long hair and a very long beard.
Yeah, that's right. I stopped cutting my hair in February, so I'm normally got really short hair. I'm starting to get the hair now already, and I had my last shave 2 days ago, so I'm interested to see what I look like when I get back.
What are you most looking forward to?
To be honest, I've been building this boat, so I built the boat myself and in the driveway of our home over COVID, and this is a race that a lot of people like me from around the world are doing. So they're all adventurers, they're not elite sailors or anything, they're just people wanting to have a go at life, and I'm really looking forward to meeting these people that I haven't actually met in person. We've met them all online and we've learned how to build these boats online, but I'm really just looking forward to getting over there and seeing everyone.
That is so cool, and those that want to follow along, can they do so on Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook's probably the best way. Dan Turner Mini Globe Race 2025. I've got a website, danturneradventure.com, and that can sort of lead people to different places. So, that's probably the best place to look at, and you'll be able to track me along the world, yeah.
Well, Dan, all the very best. We'll be keeping an eye on you. Love this adventure. You're very brave. Well done.
Thank you very much.
All the best, Dan. I'll tell you what, I think he trumps everyone's what did you achieve during COVID lockdowns.
Also,
he made a yacht worthy of travelling around the world from scratch.
That's pretty cool.
It's just ludicrous.
What an amazing journey it'll be.
Yeah, quite remarkable.
Hey, Con Savas, absolute food pioneer, lost his life last week. Great life, well lived, the age of 90. But his funeral is being held today, and he started Con's Fine Foods in the Central Market, 1959, with his brothers. Today run by his sons Ross, Anthony and Alex. So our commiserations to the entire Savas family. But that shop, I adore that shop, and it's still there, exactly the same as it was, with all its fantastic continental meats and cheeses and everything else. Huge food pioneer, big part of the history of South Australia, and a much loved part of the Central Market. So FIVEAA Con.
5AA News is coming up, breaking at 8 next, and the Premier of South Australia after 8:30.
Local news and information first. This is 5AA News, always Adelaide.
Partly cloudy and 28 today. With the 8 o'clock news, I'm Jess Adamson.
Make RAA approved windscreen repairer Complete Windscreens your insurer repairer of choice. Visit completewindscreens.com.au.
A man's been arrested after a pursuit at Edwardstown overnight. He was spotted driving a stolen Kia sedan on Angus Avenue. Senior Constable Kate Dawson says patrols deployed road spikes, puncturing all 4 of the car's tyres, but the driver didn't stop.
Polair was luckily quickly overhead, and they tracked the Kia through the back streets of Edwardstown and Plimpton Park before it hit a dead end on the parade, which is just near the Oaklands wetlands. So here nearby patrols swarmed in and placed the driver, a 48-year-old man, under arrest. He's been charged with illegal use of motor vehicle, driving unlicensed and dangerous driving to escape police pursuit.
Police are investigating a robbery at a Trott Park supermarket late last night. 2 men, one armed with what appeared to be a firearm, entered the servo on Hyson Drive and demanded cash and cigarettes. They fled on foot. No one was physically injured. Police dog Enzo searched the area but was unable to find them. The grieving father of one of 2 Australians who died of suspected methanol poisoning in Laos is calling for answers. 19-year-old best friends Bianca Jones and Holly Bowles died in separate Thai hospitals after their drinks were tainted with the toxic chemical while on holiday. Mark Jones says it's vital a thorough investigation is carried out.
I'd like to take this opportunity to urge the Lao government to investigate this to the fullest extent to make sure this incident doesn't happen again. Young men and women should be able to travel, create their own life experiences and be safe.
A key independent senator believes this could be the last parliamentary sitting week before the federal election. The Albanese government is trying to get a range of measures passed through Parliament, but much of its legislation remains in limbo. Among the most contentious proposals is Labor's Help to Buy scheme to try and get more young people into the housing market. Tasmanian Senator Jackie Lambie says the issue needs to be dealt with before Parliament rises.
It's an absolute mess up in the Senate, to be honest with you, but I will say one thing. We need that housing deal ticked off because people need roofs over their heads. So if anything, can they please get that done?
More than 1,300 Australian businesses went bust in October, marking the highest number of insolvencies in a single month on record. Figures from ASIC show construction and hospitality were among the sectors hardest hit due to high material costs and skill shortages. The US President-elect is soaring in the polls as he makes his transition back into the White House. More than half of Americans are feeling positive about Donald Trump's incoming administration. Mr. Trump is working through final changes as he continues to assemble his cabinet. At least 100 flood warnings have been issued as a deadly storm makes its way across the UK. Edward Godfrey is there.
Storm Bert is causing chaos across the UK, and sadly it's been deadly too, with at least 5 people dying. Areas across Wales have been hit the hardest. There have been landslides in the north, towns in the south inundated, roads and cars submerged, emergency crews kept busy rescuing people and animals too. More than 100 flooding alerts have been issued. 80% of the monthly rainfall has fallen this weekend. The storm is lashing England too, wreaking havoc with flights. Many have been cancelled or delayed from Heathrow. Storm Bert isn't done yet. It's expected to hang around until Tuesday, local time.
Now
Now turning to 5AA Sports.
Get a free fuel card with a new Triton, Pajero, Outlander or Eclipse from Agostino Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Mawson Lakes.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Jess. Australia will be hoping for a miracle when day 4 of the first test resumes in Perth in a few hours' time. Chasing a massive 534 to win, the Aussies crumbled to 3 for 12 at stumps, with Nathan McSweeney, night watchman Pat Cummins and then Marnus Labuschagne all dismissed cheaply. It came after the tourists amassed 6 for 487 declared, Yashasvi Jaiswal top scoring with 161, while Virat Kohli continued his love affair with the country with an unbeaten ton of his own.
Sweeps hard, work to be done in the field, diving effort, 100 for Virat Kohli. The king continues his love affair of batting in Australia.
Audio there thanks to Fox. Meantime, an unbeaten century partnership from Henry Hunt and Harry Nilsson has helped South Australia get back into its Shield match against Western Australia, SA finishing at 4 for 139 after WA was dismissed for 373. Queenslander Elvis Smiley is the toast of the golfing world after a 2-stroke win in the Australian PGA at Royal Queensland. The 22-year-old Australian finishing at 14 under. Meantime, Maverick McNeely has won his maiden PGA Tour title after winning the RSM Classic in Georgia this morning with a birdie on the final hole to win by a shot. Champion racehorse Winx has had her second foal, this time a colt. In March, the 37-time race winner's first foal, a filly, sold for $10 million. The Boomers have qualified for basketball's Asia Cup after a 98-75-point win over Korea. And 2 games in the English Premier League overnight. Liverpool 3-2 winners against Southampton, while Ipswich and Manchester United drew 1-1. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Thanks, Tom. Now checking 5AA traffic.
Control Air, Australia's commercial refrigeration and air conditioning experts. Visit controlairaustralia.com.au.
Cleaning up an earlier 3-car collision mile end at the moment. It's at the intersection of South Road and Henley Beach Road. Still got a few delays heading into the city. Albertson got a level crossing fault. Fussell Place, a little bit out of the way, so no great dramas through there at the moment. So look out for works at Camden Park, Anzac Highway and Morford Road. Getting busy, Richmond Road heading into the city too, and a Cameron Lyons Road at Holden Hill. Anchored down with an 8-night South Pacific Carnival cruise from $999 per person at Flight Centre and receive $400 onboard credits. Book now at Flight Centre. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Stay cool. Service your aircon at Automasters. And keep cool with Cool Now, Pay Later options.
Partly cloudy and 28 today, 32 with a shower or 2 tomorrow, 24 for Wednesday and 23 for Thursday and Friday. Right now it's 21 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Black Friday at Adelaide Appliance Gallery is just around the corner, and we've got some excellent deals to celebrate, like 20% off selected Smeg appliances, 20% off Portofino and Victoria, 15% off Lanier and Dolce Steel Novo, 10% off Fab, Sapphire and Diamond dishwashers, as well as 10% off Fab and integrated refrigeration. With offers this good, some terms, conditions and exclusions apply. Call into 155 Paynham Road, St Peters and pick up a Black Friday special, or visit adelaideappliancegallery.com.au.
I'll grab a few people I know. We'll mark out some places to go. There's no invitation, just a destination, and that's the best freedom I know. Jump in the Jayco. Jump in the Jayco. Yeah, that's the best freedom I know.
G'day everyone, Cornsey here. Now I know a great team and I see one, and the South Australian hydraulic team I rate the highest is BL Shipway. The Shipway team are the best in the business. They've been looking after your hydraulic and pneumatic needs since 1953 with brands like Ryco, Rexroth, Enerpac, Hydac, Oilpath, EasyFit and many more. If you can't get to them, they'll send a Ryco 24/7 van to you anytime, anywhere. blshipway.com.au, a South Australian team you can count on.
Join over 60,000 Adelaide homes and say yes to lowering your energy bills with Yes, your energy saving solutions. Do you know how much that old fridge in the shed is adding to your electricity bill? Your energy saving solutions can collect your old inefficient fridges and freezers for free, and the best part is that you can also get up to $150 per unit. For T's and C's on this unbeatable offer from your energy saving solutions, go to yes.net.au. That's yes.net.au.
Stay informed, get involved. 5AA, always Adelaide.
Drive away in the Tucson Hybrid by Hyundai from just $46,990 drive away. T's and C's apply.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
Nine minutes after 8. Good morning to you if you're joining us for the very first time on this Monday morning. It is the 25th of November, would you believe? We're a month out from Christmas Day.
1 month.
Doesn't feel like Christmas Day, I reckon, if you're on South Road in the western suburbs this morning, where a big crash at the intersection with Henley Beach Road has caused all sorts of traffic chaos. If you've been through the area and you got a sense of where it's at, whether it's cleared, let us know, 8223 0000. You can text us on the Duttons text line as well, 0480 1395. The Premier has been in Baku in Azerbaijan with the COP summit that's been on there. He's been there. He's been trying to perform a Katy Perry Mark II, where he's walked against the tide of hundreds of thousands of COP delegates to try and get to whoever the Katy Perry equivalent is at COP to tell them that they must come to Adelaide. It'd be a huge event if we're able to secure it. We'll talk to him about that, and indeed a host of local issues too, including the inquiry into the CFMEU's conduct here in South Australia. This has come out of the Victorian inquiry. We spoke about it in the last hour of the program, and we'll talk to him about nuclear as well. Peter Dutton on our show last week said Anthony Albanese needs to turn to some of the adults in the Labor Party, like Peter Malinauskas, for some advice about how to handle nuclear policy. I wonder what the Premier makes of that.
I'm sure the Premier is loving a constant public glowing endorsement from the federal opposition leader at the moment.
Well, it might carry more weight than the federal Labor leader.
Yeah.
The way polling's going. So the Premier's coming up very, very shortly. And in a moment, in what is a significant day for 5AA, we have a brand new mornings program that starts today. Graham Goodings is taking over the seat. He'll be joining us here in the studio very, very shortly. It's not the first time either that he has taken over a new program in Adelaide Radio. We've got an old promo that we're going to play you very shortly.
Excellent.
The last time he was introduced as brand new. Time for breaking at 8.
It's now 7 years since Adelaide grandmother Annie Jenkins disappeared in a presumed murder in Malaysia. Well, her family continue to fight for justice, and one of the next big hurdles they face is an attempt in the Malaysian High Court to overturn a coroner's ruling which delivered an open verdict on her death. The family insists that it should be regarded and described as murder, and that's all coming to a head in the Malaysian High Court in January. Greg Jenkins has made more than 30 trips to Malaysia in the quest for justice in his mother's name, and he joins us again now. Greg, good to be chatting to you again, mate, even though it's obviously such a harrowing topic. How confident are you that you can achieve success in the High Court, given that you've largely been stymied every step of the way in Malaysia?
Thanks again for having me on. We have to have hope that we've got a really good lawyer on board, and we've given all the evidence, and we've seen all the evidence that was presented during the coronial inquest the first time round, which was a farcical. So we're hoping that the High Court judge can actually have a holistic view and a decent view to look at it favourably, especially when the Australian coroner has confirmed that Mum was murdered by blunt force trauma to the skull.
Yeah, well, that's it, because everyone in Australia who's looked at the case has said, look, there's no doubt about it. But that open verdict that they brought down, did it feel like just another sort of attempt on the Malaysian authorities' part to downplay this and try to make it all go away?
Absolutely. And it feels like that every step of the way. Every time we take one step forward, we normally get a kick in the guts by the Malaysian authorities, which pushes us 2 steps back.
The other thing too, I reckon, Greg, and this is something where I know you've been working with the daughters of David Fisk, and This is the family who ended up coming to grief in the Philippines in that brutal murder. You were over there in the Philippines helping them, and it really highlights the lack of support. I mean, if you're the Bali Nine or Chappelle Corby, you seem to get DFAT on speed dial, but families like the Fisks and you end up fighting your own battles.
Yeah, and we're not trying to get a sense of entitlement, but I reached out to Lucinda and Brittany Fisk after their father, stepmother and stepsister were brutally bound, gagged and murdered over in the Philippines, and just offered our support, knowing that what we went through and the support that the Australian government and DFAT gave was fairly minimal, if not anything, and they were really struggling with a couple of things, like just basic things like trying to get their father's luggage and passport back.
Crikey.
They were too scared to go over there after their family had been murdered, so I offered to do that for them.
Yeah, right. And Greg, I understand too that you've had some coverage of the story in Malaysia that has sort of waxed and waned a bit, but you've actually had a bit of cut through using TikTok and a bit of a social media campaign around what happened to Mum.
Yeah. So the idea behind that was the developer also controls 70% of Malaysian media, and there's been occasions where he's put a ban on Mum's case. So I decided to start a social media campaign under Anna Jenkins, if anyone wants to have a look, or under Jenksy at Facebook. And through TikTok and the other social media platforms, we've been actually able to tell parts of the story which has been mostly overlooked. Yeah, so it's been real positive.
Because it does feel, doesn't it, like the sort of, there's corporate elements around the ownership of the development where your mum's remains were found, where people seem to be tiptoeing around a few things here for all sorts of weird reasons, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And, even little things like they're not allowed to mention the development side of Kensington Gardens.
Yeah.
Otherwise they get hit with a lawsuit.
Yeah.
All these little inconsistencies, which makes our job a lot harder.
Mm. Well, Greg, you keep fighting, mate. You've done your mum proud, and we'll stay in touch because it's a story that deserves a much better ending than the one that the authorities there are trying to put on it and just sort of sweep it all under the carpet. So good luck, mate, and keep fighting, and we'll talk again soon, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
A shout out to Lucinda and Brittany, who are the daughters of David Fisk. That was the case that Greg mentioned, and I think Greg's idea of pursuing, and a lot of people have been making the point this morning in the context of the Bali Nine. The Fisk family, the Jenkins family, they're saying, can we actually get some more help from the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade on all this? And you wonder whether it becomes a case of, well, Malaysia's an ally, Philippines, good ally, share our concerns about the South China Sea. You get the sense that politics gets in the way of the, fully sleeves-up prosecution of these cases. But, more importantly than that,
you can make a deal on the Bali Nine.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, that wasn't a kindness, that was a deal.
Yeah, yes.
So there is the capacity to do deal making. If you're going to do one for us, we'll do one for you. It just doesn't seem to be as much as enthusiasm around these sorts of
100%.
cases. We got a very excitement announcement of a sort this morning in about 40 minutes' time. Brand new mornings host on 5AA, a man you'll be familiar with, Graham Goodings. The good news is about Dad taking over is that they haven't had to do a new promo because we've got an old one here from 1988.
The big news this week is on Adelaide Action 5AA. Graham Goodings takes on Breakfast Radio, Monday to Friday, 6:30 to 9. It's breakfast that's bright and informative. Then Vincent Smith takes over from 9 till noon with his own special mixture of information and music. So tune in to Graham Goodings for breakfast and spend your morning with Vincent Smith. Monday to Friday on Adelaide Action 5AA.
So that's from 1988. We're going to have to tweak it a little bit. But
it obviously worked well, didn't it?
You're still here. 36 years ago, Graham.
Yeah. No, I did breakfast for 6 months. That's all. I'll tell you why. Because I was doing what somebody else in this studio was doing. I was doing breakfast radio and TV at night, Eyewitness News. And I got to find that after 6 months that I never saw the kids at all. And there were 3 of them. And
there was 2 at that
because I was putting in a full day. Not like somebody here.
Yeah.
I used to leave here.
You had a mugs deal.
Yeah. I left here at 9 and started at Channel 10 at 10, and then worked through to 10.
Oh, that is outrageous.
Yeah. It was crazy. Not like some who go and have a nice snooze and play with the kids and, you know.
Speaking about spending time with your family, one of the good things about both you blokes is that you've managed to find a really good way to do that, which is to work together and host, the breakfast show and the morning show straight after it.
Well, see, how many other jobs, because, you can be Smith and Son plumbers or Jones and Son butchers, and so, but in radio it just doesn't happen.
I'm feeling a bit left out. I want to get my dad in here.
The worst part is the rest of the family hates us because when we get together, we just talk about radio. We just talk shop all the time, and everyone groans and says,
"There they go."
Oh, crikey!
Start talking about how dodgy the ratings methodology is and stuff like that.
Oh well, it depends how we've gone.
It was pretty good last week.
Yeah, no, it's
methodology.
Clearly, they've tweaked them. It's very
congratulations, guys! You've done really well.
No, great,
as you should.
It's so good having you back, though, mate.
It's great to be back. I mean, I've been in this industry for many, many years, and I started off wanting to be a radio announcer, a broadcaster, and I kept being pushed towards news because I obviously wasn't all that good at broadcasting. But, and also,
don't say that out loud.
But I loved reading news. I read news on 7 for more than 30 years. But I always sort of thought I'd love to get back talking to people. And the opportunity's arisen, so I'm thrilled to bits about it.
That's brilliant.
So you're nervous?
No, I'm not actually. Mind you, come 9 o'clock, 9:05, it might change a little. I might get a little bit anxious. But no, I'm really looking forward to it. It's great. I've got great support with Tammy, who's I've worked with before, because I filled in for Leon for 5 months.
Yeah, well, of course,
when he was sick at one stage, and I've often filled in for Matthew. So it's very familiar surrounds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the thing that makes this, in a sense, easier for you, and we were talking about this off air, doing the morning news shift is the earliest shift there is here at 5AA these days. You're in well before we're in, before anyone's in.
I turn the lights on.
That's right.
I walk into a darkened newsroom.
4 a.m.
No, I don't start. I start at 5.
But you'd wake up at 4.
Oh, yeah. I wake
so
up.
Doing mornings is a huge lifestyle boost.
2 hours extra sleep. This is bliss.
And you're out working, and you don't have to be, listening to us for those 3 hours too, which is that must
I listen, boys. I was listening. Don't you want? I'm pinching a story idea here and there.
How do you think Will's going with his radio career?
Can I talk to you off here?
This is how it starts. This always starts. They start in mornings and they want to end up in breakfast. That's
I said, if you ever need any advice, come and see me. You want to know something? He has never ever asked me once for any advice at all. And I think that's the success of his career, actually, the reason for it.
As a reader on TV, he doesn't quite have the same mellifluous tones as his father, I'd say.
No.
He's terrific.
He is brilliant.
But he's no Graham when it comes to elocution.
Are you meant to be my breakfast mate? Isn't it David and Will? You're meant to be on my team. What are you button up to the morning sky?
I tell you what, I get buttonholed all the time these days. Say, aren't you Will Gooding's dad? And they say, we liked you, but he's much better looking than you are.
He's got that. Absolutely.
Just younger. What have you got coming up?
Look, I'm glad you asked. We're going to do more on the lemon cars.
That's a good issue.
Oh, it is a huge issue because more and more cars are being sold. Excuse me. More and more cars are being sold privately these days, online, and social media and the like. And
most of them.
You don't have the protection that you do if you're buying from a registered dealer. So I think it's a good move to try and make these cars more, or sellers more accountable. A story that I'm looking at that really concerns me is childcare centres. There was a survey of 17,000 childcare centres around Australia. South Australian childcare centres did not make the top 1,000.
Wow.
Which is cause for concern. Not that they're all bad, but why couldn't we even make the top 1,000? Evidently, staffing is a huge issue. So we're going to look at that, the importance of a good childcare centre, because most parents, with two parents working, need childcare centres. It's an important aspect of young people's lives. And if our childcare centres aren't as good as any in the country, I want to know why.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to hearing you after 9 o'clock.
Thanks, fella.
All the best. Good luck.
Good on you, Graham.
Be yourself.
Oh, thank you. That's good advice.
Let's check traffic. The Black Friday sales are on now at Barbecue Adelaide Weber stores, Depps Cross and Mile End. Minimum 10% off store-wide.
Thanks, Will. Mile End, 3-car collision at the intersection of Henley Beach Road and South Road. Residual delays clearing there. Level crossing fault still playing up at Alberton. Fussell Place at the railway line, but out of the way, so no great dramas. And works at Woodville South to look out for Port Road near Woodlands Crescent. Busy at the moment, Marion Road at the Anzac Highway intersection with the Canberra Lines Road at Holden Hill. The Barbecues Galore Black Friday sale is now on. Save up to 50% off barbecues, barbecue accessories, outdoor furniture and more. Shop now, in-store or online. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
The 5AA Sports Show. Stephen Rowe and Tim Jennifer.
You're happy with what the Crows ended up? They've got a rating of a B+ for their drafting.
Well, I was optimistically hopeful.
That's right, you were.
Now I've got no optimistic or any hopeful. They just have to.
I've
more moved into the have to.
Well, have to's good.
Have to's good.
The 5AA Sports Show.
When you're on the edge,
have to is good.
You show that desperation.
Yeah. Weekdays from 4 p.m. on 5AA. Always Adelaide.
Get a Toyota forklift.
Deliver more with Toyota, the world's #1 forklift brand. Choose from a great range including pallet jacks, walkie stackers and reach forklifts, right up to their leading Toyota counterbalance forklifts. Legendary reliability and safety with cleaner, greener electric options. Toyota can tailor the right forklift solution for you. It's all part of the Toyota Forklift Advantage. For more, visit toyotamaterialhandling.com.au.
Get a Toyota forklift. Don't just send it, ace it.
If your current job is driving you bonkers, get outdoors and hit the road. ACET Transport Solutions is growing and they need more drivers to keep their promise of perfect service. So, if you want a career that'll take you places, get in touch with the team at ACET Transport Solutions. Visit acettransport.au.
Don't just send it, ACET.
And now, David, I know your and my swear jars at home are pretty full.
Yeah.
In fact, we're going to solve the national debt the way we're going. But there is a swear jar out there that's full of goodness. The swear jar at Biourban Bathrooms and Kitchens, full of pledges and promises from the whole team at Biourban with things that they swear to do for you.
My swear jar maxed out at 3 for 9 last night at the Wacker. Here's one sent to us straight from the Biourban swear jar. It's from Chloe, the operations manager, who just happens to be Riley O'Brien's fiancée, obviously a massive Crows fan. Now, nothing gets past Chloe. She's the queen of managing all bathroom renovation projects. Chloe swears to ensure all the trades arrive on time, every time, day in, day out.
Well, now we've got to know Chloe is a big Crows fan. She's added in the Riley O'Brien component, which is taking the fandom to the next level.
Exactly.
For a team that swears to deliver on quality and service, see Biourban Bathrooms and Kitchens, Adelaide's home renovation experts.
5AA's Tech Talk with your host, Adelaide Tech Guy Richard Pascoe. Thanks to Harvey Norman Computers.
Black Friday sales are huge. It's the ideal time to get into Harvey Norman if you are thinking of upgrading a Windows computer. Get up to 35% off all Windows computers during the Black Friday sales. Yep, 35% off. You'll also get a great price on these two Acer PCs. Acer Aspire Go is down to just $598. That is powered by an Intel i5 chip, and you don't normally find PCs with that sort of power under $600. There's also the Acer Aspire Lite with 16 gig of RAM, powered by the even bigger Intel i7 chip, and that's only $798. Get your favourite tech for less during the Black Friday sale at Harvey Norman.
Check out this great offer at a Harvey Norman store near you.
Rosanna Mangiarelli here from 7 News. Join me and Will Goodings for Adelaide's leading news hour, 7 News, tonight at 6 o'clock.
Drive away in the Tucson Hybrid by Hyundai from just $46,990 drive away. T's and C's apply.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
28 after 8, there was a robbery at a supermarket in Trott Park last night. It contains some pretty concerning details. Mitchell Sariovsky's covering the story for 7 News here in Adelaide. Mitch, there's some suggestions there may have been a firearm. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, guys. So, good morning to you. It was just before midnight at the IGA supermarket where I am in Trott Park when the thieves, they stormed inside. Now, the two men who had their faces covered, they entered the store. One was armed with what appeared to be a firearm. Now, they terrorised one of the staff members here and demanded cash and cigarettes before making a run for it. Now, the owner says they took $7,000, which is a couple days' takings. That supermarket worker, who was caught up in the robbery, he's taken time off work, he's been offered counselling. Now, guys, the entire ordeal was captured on CCTV, and we'll be able to bring that to you in our 7 News bulletins today.
Very scary. So they had the police dogs out there, didn't they, Mitch? PD Enzo was on the scene, but they got a scent, but they couldn't track him down.
Yeah, and I think the difficulty as well with this is that they had gloves on and they had masks on. So it makes it much more difficult for police to track these people down. But yeah, PD Enzo and his handler, they arrived on scene quickly. They did find a track, but they couldn't locate the suspects. They took off behind the shop further south. But there's no doubt it was incredibly terrifying for that worker. You can just see the terror on his face in that CCTV.
I bet. Well, we'll look forward to watching 7 News tonight and getting a closer look at some of that. Mitch, thank you for that. Mitchell Sarabsky for 7 News in Trop Park. It's a notable one, but and it's quite sadly and unfortunately, supermarkets being held up is not notable at the moment.
No.
But the use of a firearm sort of elevates it to a sphere that we don't typically have to deal with.
No.
So we will...
Trop Park. Can't remember anything of that nature ever happening in Trop Park.
No, well,
sleepy little
we've spent a bit of time
normally.
focused on Trop Park recently, haven't we, in the Seat of Black?
Yeah. It's next to Shido there.
5AA News time. We're going to take a quick break. The Premier of South Australia, fresh from Baku, Azerbaijan, will join us on 5AA Breakfast next.
This is 5AA News. Always Adelaide.
Partly cloudy and 28 today. With the 8:30 news, I'm Jess Adamson.
Chipped windscreen? RAA approved repairer Complete Windscreens repairs it from just $99. Find the big red koala.
A new theory has emerged in the disappearance of Adelaide man Cameron Twiss in Albania. The 26-year-old disappeared on a popular hiking track in the mountains. Advertiser reporter Emily Ollie's in Albania and says there's speculation he may have been attacked by a bear.
There's actually only about 200 bears in the country, but they are known to be in the area where Cameron went missing. There actually hasn't been a bear attack on that trail before, but they have been. I've been sent some photos this morning of bear tracks around the trail. They're certainly known to be in the area. One of the theories is that potentially if he wasn't attacked, if he sort of slipped and fell or had some sort of misadventure, it's awful terms, but the bear could have taken his body or something like that.
Two men are on the run after a frightening robbery at a Trott Park supermarket overnight. Just before midnight, police were called to a shopping centre on Hyson Drive where the men, one armed with a firearm, demanded cash and cigarettes. The attendant wasn't hurt. The suspects, who had their faces covered, were wearing dark clothing, one with a high-vis top. An online fundraiser to support the families of two young Australian women who died of suspected methanol poisoning has raised more than $100,000. Christy Sullivan reports.
19-year-old best friends Bianca Jones and Holly Bowles fell ill after a night out in Laos and were rushed to separate Thai hospitals. Bianca died on Thursday while Holly passed away a day later. Bianca's grieving father is calling on the Laos government to investigate their deaths to the fullest extent. The families have now set up a GoFundMe to help assist them in bringing their daughters home. Funds raised from the campaign will also be donated to organisations already working to combat methanol poisoning through education and prevention efforts and help launch initiatives to educate travellers, local communities and businesses about the dangers of methanol poisoning and how it can be avoided. The families say they want to honour the memory of Bianca, Holly and others by turning this tragedy into a mission for change.
A snap inquiry into proposed social media age restrictions is about to get underway. Federal politics reporter Zach De Silva.
The Albanese government is hoping to pass a number of key reforms over the last parliamentary sitting week of the year. Among them is a plan to ban children under 16 from social media platforms including Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. A one-day inquiry will hear from experts and advocates about the proposal, but Independent Senator Jackie Lambie says the bill is being rushed.
They're trying to ram something else down our throats instead of getting it right.
E-Safety Commissioner Julie Inman-Grant has told the ABC it's important the age limit is backed up by other measures.
This is just one piece of an interlocking set of provisions.
Major housing, migration and aged care reforms will also be debated this week.
There are calls for the federal government to lift the current cap for the number of psychology sessions rebated under Medicare. The Australian Clinical Psychology Association says the current allowance of 10 sessions a year isn't enough with many patients and denies thousands of Australians the care they need. An online petition, which already has around 20,000 signatures, is being circulated. The US President-elect is soaring in the polls as he makes his transition back into the White House. Donald Trump is making major changes to government departments as he works to finalise his cabinet. One of particular concern includes the Department of Justice. Former FBI agent Bobby Charcon hopes the shake-up doesn't spark too much internal tension.
Hopefully he doesn't take it out on the entire organization as a whole, because there are a lot of very good men and women in the FBI still working hard protecting America.
Now turning to 5AA Sport.
Get a free fuel card with a new Triton, Pajero, Outlander or Eclipse from Agostino Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Mawson Lakes.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Jess. Australia will be hoping for a miracle when day 4 of the first test against India resumes in Perth. Steve Smith and Usman Khawaja will be at the crease chasing a massive 5.34 to win. The Aussies have crumbled to be 3 for 12. Well, for a fourth consecutive year, Max Verstappen has been crowned the Formula One World Champion. The Dutch driver taking out the honour at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Verstappen says it wouldn't have been possible without his amazing team.
All these highs that we are achieving right now is just, very, very special to do that with all the group of people that we have here at the track and back at the factory that, they're continuously pushing flat out, to give me the car to fight for a title, and to do that 4 times in a row is very special.
Amazing achievement. Well, hopes of a historic Grand Slam spring tour for the Wallabies have been dashed, beaten 27-13 by Scotland at Murrayfield. Forward Will Skelton says Scotland is a classy side, but they didn't help themselves.
Mate, the way Scotland play, they've got some world-class players out wide and they love to spread the ball, and they caught us a few times, but mate, really I think it's our discipline that let us down. Something that I know that it's in our control, and these boys will learn from that and move into next week.
The Wallabies tour will wrap up against Ireland in Dublin on Sunday morning. To soccer, and new Manchester United manager Ruben Amorim has had a 1-1 draw with Ipswich in his first EPL match in charge. The youngest United manager in half a century couldn't have asked for a better start when his side took the lead inside 2 minutes, but the home side hit back just before half-time.
Hutchinson, he's got a bend on that! Omari Hutchinson!
Lovely goal, that audio thanks to Optus, and there was one other game overnight. Liverpool 3-2 winners against Southampton. And Jess, that is the 5AA Sport.
Thanks, Tom. Now checking 5AA traffic.
Control Air, Australia's commercial refrigeration and air conditioning experts. Visit controlairaustralia.com.au.
At Mile End, residual delays clearing from an earlier 3-car collision at the intersection of Henley Beach Road and South Road. Glenelg East Urgent Gasworks, Dargna Road near Lapthorne Streets, and Alberton Level Crossing fault Fussell Place at the railway line. Busy Main North Road, Enfield. Slow, Tapley's Hill Road, Glenelg North, with the camera Wommer Road at Penfield. Shop online at Officeworks this Black Friday and get free 2-hour delivery until December 4. Officeworks won't be beaten on price with their price beat guarantee. Exclusions apply. See website for details. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Stay cool. Service your aircon at Automasters. And keep cool with Cool Now, Pay Later options.
28 and partly cloudy today, 32 with a shower or two tomorrow, 24 for Wednesday and 23 for Thursday and Friday. Right now it's 22 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Play Ready, Set, Peel and Win at Shell Coles Express and Ready Express. 1 in 5 game cards wins. Terms and conditions apply. See readyexpress.com.au/win. Ends 4th December. Keep receipt and game card. Permit T24/1220.
Adelaide's local, trusted and truly connected talkback radio station. 5AA. Always Adelaide.
EcoVantage is part of thousands of SA families every day. Running hot baths or showers, in the laundry, our dishwashers and kitchens, it's all made better, greener and more affordable with an energy-efficient heat pump. Using around 70% less energy than traditional electric hot water services, and it's cheaper than gas hot water. Pump your power bills down and make EcoVantage part of your everyday with an energy-efficient heat pump. ecovantage.com.au.
Steinborner Hyundai has always been well worth a trip, and now there's another great reason to visit. Hyundai's full range of hybrids. Steinborner Hyundai has a hybrid to suit every driver, from the hybrid i30, the Kona, the Tucson, as well as the all-new Santa Fe hybrid family-sized SUV. Experience the difference at Steinborner Barossa and Clare, with outstanding service and a great range of vehicles. And you'll see why. Steinborner Hyundai is well worth the trip. Steinborner.com.au.
Now, here's something you probably didn't know about the tiled roof on your home. It's probably only watertight for around 30 to 40 years. And if you get it cleaned and resealed, well, its lifespan is not fantastic. It's far more cost effective to have your entire roof replaced.
So there's literally 100 reasons to choose a local company called Roof and Render SA to replace your roof.
Roof and Render are 4th generation roofers. They've been replacing roofs for over 100 years. They use 100% Colorbond steel too, so you know it will last.
Roof and Render SA are 100% South Australian too, with hundreds of happy customers loving the experience.
Plus, right now, Roof and Render SA are offering free gutters and downpipes with any roof replacement. This is a genuine offer, so there's nothing tacked onto the price. T's and C's apply. For more, Google Roof and Render SA.
What's on your wish list this Christmas? For people like Tanya, their wishes are more desperate.
I wish I could pay the rent and have some money for food.
Help people like Tanya by donating to the Vinnie's Christmas Appeal. vinnies.org.au.
Built like a brick house. Basic Trailers build all types of trailers here in Adelaide. Locally made with Australian steel, you get 12 months warranty and factory direct pricing. Visit basictrailers.com.au. Basic Trailers. Basically, better.
SA's biggest cover-up is about to be uncovered. Who's at the centre of it? Wonko, of course. Summer is on its way. Time to think about waking up your sleepy pool and getting set for good times. Beat the rush now and organise your Wonko pool blanket. It'll keep your pool clean and warm all summer. Plus, stop evaporation. Uncover the savings now with a Wonko pool blanket. Visit wonko.com.au today.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head to 5AA on Facebook or YouTube. Drive away in the Tucson Hybrid by Hyundai from just $46,990 drive away. T's and C's apply.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings. 5AA Breakfast.
19 to 9. We didn't do the cruise call out that half hour, which means there's one more boarding call this morning. There's not many left. The short list ends as of the end of this week because during Stacey's program on Friday, that on board that stunning Silver Nova, the Silver Sea's newest luxury ship, she'll be making the announcement of who wins the $18,000 grand prize, all thanks to Silver Sea Luxury Cruising and Phil Hoffman Travel.
The Premier, Peter Malinauskas, is back from Azerbaijan, and he joins us now for his first interview since returning. Premier, good morning, and thanks so much for joining us on the Brekkie Show. Now, you said before you headed off to the COP, as it's known, that this was something that South Australia could and should host. Having seen it up close and personal, firstly, do you think that it's an event where we could manage the scale of it with the number of delegates that are there? And also, do you think that it's something that we really want here in SA? What's the argument for having it here?
Yeah, that's both good questions, Dave. I think that the impetus from my perspective is twofold. One is the economic benefit just of hosting the thing. I mean, it is bigger than Ben-Hur. This is like, think of it as the industrial equivalent of the Olympics in terms of size and scale. So what that would do for, our economy over the course of that 2 weeks would be, it may gather round and with golf and all these other events look like small beer, frankly. The longer-term economic benefit, though, is putting South Australia on the map in terms of what we seek to contribute and industrialise through decarbonisation, whether it be green iron or the copper opportunity that we see in South Australia as being, transformational in terms of economic growth. In answer to the first part of your question in terms of the scale, look, this is the challenge. The default position would be for the federal government to pick Sydney in the event that Australia is the host. There's still a battle going on internationally between Australia and Turkey hosting the event in 2026. But we have done a lot of work. We engaged KPMG, amongst others, just to make sure that our bid stacks up in terms of capacity. And ironically, the federal government started to look at the merit of our bid more closely post-gather round because of the amount of accommodation that's come into the system through Airbnb scaling up. And, so if we do win this event, I think there'll be a lot of South Australians that have, done or repeat what they've done in gather round and put their homes up for Airbnb and make a small fortune, and that will result in us being able to have the capacity that is required for all those delegates that would come our way.
So post-trip, are we any closer to getting it, would you say?
Look, we've put our best foot forward. I've been pretty frank about this from the start. You've got to be in to win it. I see our chances being probably have gone. I said initially I'll give us 1 in 3. I think our chances have improved because of the work that we've put in. I went over there with a degree of confidence that Australia is going to win COP, and it might even be announced, that Australia was the host last week, but that didn't eventuate because there's some pretty stiff competition with Turkey, and there's a range of geopolitical considerations that will inform whether or not it is Australia or Turkey. But I think we're a red-hot go. We've met with officials at an international and Australian level and made clear the case for South Australia hosting it. And I think over the course of the last few months that we've been putting this effort in fact, it really goes back over 12 months, I think our chances have improved, but I don't want to mislead you or your listeners to say that we're red-hot favourite at the moment. But like I said, you've got to be in it to win it, and we're putting our best foot forward.
So, Premier, you're a huge champion, obviously, of the AUKUS deal and all of the industry and jobs spin-offs that are going to come from that. Part of the deal is that, A, we're going to build nuclear-powered submarines. B, we're going to house the nuclear waste that is generated through those submarines. And you're on the record as saying that if SA ends up being earmarked as the ideal place to do that, bring it on. What do you make then of Chris Bowen and Anthony Albanese's decision not to sign on again to the Generation 4 International Forum on nuclear energy?
Yeah, look, I haven't seen that particular agreement. I'm not privy to those documents. They exist at the federal level, but I've been pretty consistent about my view on a nuclear industry in Australia. We're going to get one. I mean, that's going to happen. And for me, I actually think that represents an opportunity to improve our country and our state's economic complexity, and one that we're seeking to embrace. And, we've already got both Adelaide Uni and Flinders Uni scaling up to realise that. In terms of nuclear power, though, like for civil purposes versus the military technology, it is in South Australia's interest that the civil nuclear power globally increases, not just because I believe it's important for climate change, but because we're home to one of the world's best uranium resources, and uranium prices have been escalating as we've seen more demand for nuclear power. But in terms of nuclear power for Australian domestic consumption, for civil purposes, I think what I've said consistently is I would support it if it was able to be proven that it would result in prices coming down, people's power bills coming down. And the problem with that is that all of the available evidence that we've had from a range of experts shows that nuclear power in the Australian context could actually make power bills far more expensive indeed. And I don't know why we would pursue it if it was going to do that. It might work in China, massive industrial demand. It might work in the US where there's massive population bases in a concentrated area. similarly in Europe, but that's an entirely different set of circumstances to what we have here in Australia. So, and I've been consistent about that from the get-go, and I don't see my position changing anytime soon.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but the first part of your answer there sounded to me like you think that the Feds did the wrong thing by not signing that agreement.
Well, no, because I haven't seen that agreement, so I'm not going to.
Well, you know what it is. It's about making sure that we talk to other liberal democracies that safely use nuclear power to share scientifically based know-how about how we can foster an industry that, whether we like it or not, we're now part of through AUKUS.
Well, but if it's for civil purposes, if it's exclusively an agreement about nuclear power for civil purposes, Pembo, then that would be potentially redundant in an Australian context, because all the evidence says that nuclear power would make our power bills more expensive. I mean, look, this is obviously going to be a significant issue at the federal election, and I mean, it's impossible for, I think, any Australian citizen to make a considered analysis or opinion on this, because Peter Dutton's come out and said, we're going to build nuclear power if they win. Okay, that's fair enough. That's his prerogative. But then he's refused to tell people how much it's going to cost. I mean, you've both been students of federal elections for a long time. Could you imagine John Howard at a federal election standing up and saying, look, we're going to have a state-run intervention into power generation, but I'm going to refuse to tell you how much it's going to cost to build? I mean, it would have been that.
Well, a cynic might argue we've sort of had that with renewables over the last decade.
But people do know what the cost of renewable energy is, because it's all there for people to see in terms of what the cost of generation is.
In the form of their power bills.
Well, no, but here lies in the issue. The reason why power bills are as high as they are in an Australian context, I think, and again, this is not my opinion, this is based on, truckloads of various independent analysis, is that we've had policy consistency at a federal level for too long about that has undermined investment in generation. And we've had this absurd situation where Australia exports gas to the rest of the world, but we've got a massive domestic gas shortage of our own. And gas is what is largely setting the price of power in Australia at the moment, because it's the last bidder in that sets the price, and more often than not, that's gas generation. And my view is that the best and the most economic form of power in this country is to have renewables, but firmed with gas, which is why we're a pro-gas government, as well as being a pro-renewables pursuer, because we know that that's the cheapest form of energy in an Australian context. But for a range of policy issues interstate, we've seen the Nationals saying we've got to lock the gate on gas development, and then we've got the Greens opposing it because that's what the Greens do. When in actual fact, we just need a centre-of-the-road sensible approach for gas exploration to firm renewables.
Premier, back in September, you announced the findings of a police probe into the conduct of the CFMEU here in South Australia that found there was no criminality. Now, out of an inquiry in Victoria, there's going to be a new probe launched here in South Australia because there's concern that there's criminality, there's dodgy bookkeeping, there's all sorts of stuff that may have gone on here in South Australia. Are you concerned that we missed it here in SA?
No, look, I welcome this audit. In fact, as soon as the story started breaking about, there was that report in, I think, 9 newspapers and 60 Minutes that started to emerge about what was going on in the Victorian branch of the CFMEU, which, I've got to say, didn't surprise too many people, including myself. I was on the phone straight away with my federal colleagues, the Prime Minister's office, Tony Burke, and the Police Commissioner. I was on holidays at the time, and I hit the phone straight away saying, this is an opportunity to have a thorough examination of these people. And I, for one, in a way that has drawn ridicule from some elements of the Labor movement, I supported the CFMEU being put into administration, exactly because I think this sort of probe should take place. We've seen a lot of challenges emerge in the construction industry in South Australia ever since the Victorian branch of the CFMEU took out the leadership of the South Australian branch, and any examination of this is welcome. What SAPOL looked into was the allegations of, and SAPOL can speak for themselves, but what they looked into was the allegations of outlaw motorcycle gangs infiltrating the South Australian elements of the CFMEU, and their report they released on their own and at their own time. That wasn't from me, that's from SAPOL. But this other inquiry through the administrator about what Setka and his mob did to South Australia is an examination we welcome, and exactly why we were so keen to see the CFMEU put into administration.
Just finally, Premier, how do you think Anthony Albanese's going as Prime Minister?
Well, I think Albo is utterly dedicated to the task at hand and is quick to acknowledge the challenges that the country's got, but also the opportunities before us. And I didn't know Albo very well until I took over the leadership of the Labor Party, and I think he's someone whose value system motivates him to actually do good for people that are doing it tough. And there's a lot of that around the country at the moment, and I think he's putting his best foot forward and doing a pretty good job at it. I mean, it's not an easy job being Prime Minister of the country, and what we need is someone who's actually got a clear sense of how they want to use the power of government to deliver change. Now, look, no one's going to applaud you 100% of the time in these roles. That's the nature of the business. But I imagine we're going to have a pretty contested federal election. I'll be observing it like everybody else. And we'll wait and see what the people of Australia decide.
Good to have you back on. We'll catch up again soon. Premier Peter Malinauskas, thanks for joining us this morning.
Beaumont's Black Friday deals are unbeatable. 44% off Aussie-made specials. Hybrid flooring cleared up to 25% off. Overseas tiles from $17.95. Beaumont's in-store and online. Unbeatable. T's and C's apply.
Rowie and I are at a local restaurant who have invested in the magnificently sleek and reliable Vulcan doors. Rowie, could you step outside for a moment, please?
No, why is it always me outside?
Thank you. Vulcan doors offer automatic pedestrian doors as well as highly secure industrial roller doors and shutters.
Oi, Jimmy!
So keep out the heat as well as the pests that come with it.
Turbo, when are you going to let me back in?
Vulcan doors.
Jimmy!
Separate yourself from the rest, literally.
Oi!
Here's a true SA family business, ACET Transport Solutions, with brothers, sisters, cousins. They're all part of it, but it's not just family they look after, it's the community too.
That's correct. Well, not only do they look after your deliveries, they support over 25 local sporting clubs.
They also work with and support the Breakthrough Mental Health Research Foundation, and with support from Breakthrough, ACET Transport Solutions have created a happy and positive workplace, which is probably why they're the fastest growing courier service in SA.
And that's why right now they need more drivers. So if you've got a 1 or 2 tonne van or a 1 tonne ute, kickstart an amazing career with ACET Transport Solutions. They're great people. Give them a call today.
5AA's Tech Talk with your host, Adelaide Tech Guy Richard Pascoe. Thanks to Harvey Norman Computers.
Black Friday sales are huge. It's the ideal time to get into Harvey Norman if you are thinking of upgrading a Windows computer. Get up to 35% off all Windows computers during the Black Friday sales. Yep, 35% off. You'll also get a great price on these 2 Acer PCs. Acer Aspire Go is down to just $598. That is powered by an Intel i5 chip, and you don't normally find PCs with that sort of power under $600. There's also the Acer Aspire Lite with 16GB of RAM, powered by the even bigger Intel i7 chip, and that's only $798. Get your favourite tech for less during the Black Friday sale at Harvey Norman.
Check out this great offer at a Harvey Norman store near you.
Good afternoon, passengers. Please have your boarding pass and identification ready.
Drive away in the Tucson Hybrid by Hyundai from just $46,990 drive away. T's and C's apply.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
Let's check in again with Jade Robran, who is out on the road.
Guys, we've been talking about the tomato virus that has crippled our local industry. I'm here at Cliff Carcass Produce in Virginia with brothers Jack and Paul, whose family owns the business here. Paul, your family is now considering taking legal action. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, so basically just a whole bunch of misinformation from PIRSA and the government. So we're part of the initial companies to be tested back with the Trace property. That took about 3.5 months to get our results. All came back negative. Then Western Australia had announced that they were looking at opening up. We thought beautiful, but unfortunately we had to be tested again. So PIRSA had originally told us we didn't need to be tested and that we could send because we were tested and cleared. However, after 4 days, they got that wrong. So we're out 4 days. We then had to wait a further week to get tested, only to be told 7 to 10 days, and now we're approaching 4 weeks now. So we just can't continue doing what we're doing now.
How much has that crippled your industry? How much do you lose on a daily basis when things like that happen?
Oh, it's astronomical. To put in perspective, we're getting roughly paid back $10 a box for our capsicums, because capsicums are also under the brands of something that we can't send, and that's because we're just flooding the market. So $10 when you're talking about $2.50 for freight, $1.30 for the box, and that's not including labour, where we would be getting $35, $30, $40 in Perth. We just can't sustain it anymore, especially with prices and you know, the cost of production going through the roof. We just can't do it anymore.
So are we talking millions, hundreds of thousands?
We're looking at hundreds of thousands for us.
So who do you want to take to court?
Well, we've got questions pretty much for the Labor government and for PIRSA. Just the way the testing's been conducted as well. No one knows where our results are, so it took 2 weeks for PIRSA to tell us any information. We were told basically they didn't know where our results were. Then just last week we were told all of our results were in. We were just waiting for 7 more, only to be told 3 days later that the person from PIRSA read our information wrong. Only half of our testing's been done, so we're looking at another potential 4 weeks. Our samples have been sent interstate when we were told they were sent here to Adelaide, and to top it off, we then received a message from PIRSA saying, here's your property map and this is what's been tested, but it wasn't even our property. So
I get that sorry's not good enough in this, but has there been any ownership at all?
No, yeah, but when you push comes to shove, PIRSA blames the labs blame PIRSA.
Now we wait. Thursday we're going to Parliament to ask some questions. I know other businesses have sought legal advice based on the testing procedures in the first place. We had PIRSA admit on record that the first lot of tests were done incorrectly, that, you know, that they weren't following the EPPO standards, that people coming into the property weren't sanitised properly, so properly. So we've got all that. So
guys, thank you so much for your time today. We'll certainly keep across this story.
Yeah, it's a big story and it needs to be sorted out. Now, Graham Goodings is coming up next. Stick around. First show here on 5AA Mornings. That's all from us.